Chapter 205. At that moment, the old man in the sky outside Su Ming's cave abode was looking at the ground with bright eyes. His expression became more serious, and eventually, a hint of shock appeared on his face. Snow mark? Sima Xian's berserker mark was the snow mark. The mark of freezing snow once shook freezing sky. It's very suitable for practicing freezing sky clan's arts. I didn't expect to see the same snow mark as Sima Xian's once again. The old man took a deep breath, and the light in his eyes became brighter. Transcendence, after attaining great completion in the blood solidification realm. But you managed to understand and sense two completely different berserker marks. You gave up on the fire moon, but now, the mark of freezing snow should be suitable for you. But I can see that the mark of freezing snow on Sima Xian's body is extremely cold. It cuts off all emotions and desires. It's a merciless cold. Will this child choose? The old man mumbled and looked at the ground gravely. His gaze seemed to be able to see through everything. He saw a sad person sitting cross-legged in the cave in the mountains, covered in frost. If he gives up on his mark again, unless he can sense the third berserker mark, then he can only choose a mark that doesn't suit him. If he doesn't choose, then his power will be forever stuck at this point, and he won't be able to increase it. A hint of worry appeared on the old man's face. He had a deep understanding of berserker marks. There were some transcended berserkers who did not have a berserker mark in the history of the berserker tribe. Yet all of them could not increase their power and could not move forward. Without a berserker mark, then they could not be considered a true berserker. He shouldn't give up anymore. As the old man mumbled to himself, his expression suddenly changed. Within the cave abode in the mountains, Su Ming was sitting cross-legged in the world within his heart. There was a sentence echoing in his heart. Put in the mirror. When you turn around, don't take it with you. Su Ming mumbled. He looked at the ice mirror before him, at the ice flower inside, and at the man in white behind it. Can I put in the mirror and not take it with me? Anguish appeared on Su Ming's face, and he sighed once again. I've already broken my promise once. I can't even give up on these memories and the desire I had when I was a teenager. If I do that, then even if I manage to obtain the freezing snow mark, will I still be me? Su Ming closed his eyes. Transcendence berserker mark? What a transcendence berserker mark. I didn't expect that the transcendence berserker mark would appear like this when I meditate. The moon in the lake, the flower in the mirror, these were all illusions. None of them were real. All of this is just an illusion. In the end, it's not my choice. Su Ming opened his eyes swiftly. Moon reflection. I don't want it. The instant Su Ming said those words, a large amount of cracks immediately appeared on the ice mirror before him. As cracking sounds rang out, it shattered into an endless amount of shards with a bang. Even the ice flower and the white-robed figure seemed to have been split into several pieces. They existed in each of the shards, and they scattered before Su Ming. Fool! When the old man in the sky saw this, he spoke languidly, but he did not try to stop Su Ming the first time he gave up on his berserker mark. Instead, he watched Su Ming do it. But you have the courage to do so. Your temperament fits the requirements to become my disciple. If you can really create the third berserker mark in your trance, then even if you can't become my disciple and pass my test, I will still send you into Freezing Sky Clan. The old man looked at the ground quietly, waiting for the third berserker mark that even he did not know would appear. Time passed by slowly, and soon it was nighttime. However, on this night, the entire sky was filled with blue light and blood-red light. As they surrounded each other, they formed a strange sight. The frost on Su Ming's body had disappeared from the cave abode on the ground. There was no longer any ice or chilling air on the walls of the cave abode. The entire mountain range had returned to normal. Can't do it anymore. The old man in the sky sighed after waiting for a long time. However, he did not leave. He continued waiting in midair. Gradually, the night passed by. When the sky became bright, Su Ming was still sitting cross-legged in the cave abode in the mountain, unmoving. He no longer showed any signs of his berserker mark appearing in his trance. It was as if he was simply sleeping. He gave up on the fire moon, which means that the tribe he grew up in does not practice the path of fire. Because it's different, and because he doesn't want to, that's why he didn't choose it. From this, it can be seen that this child values his family. He gave up on a freezing mark because he doesn't want to be merciless and cold. This means that he values his relationships. But people like this are even more unsuitable to practice my skills and legacy. He can't do evil, overturn things. In truth, I don't need the test anymore. 3 days later, the old man let out a long sigh and cast a deep look at the ground. He did not continue waiting. He knew that while the amount of time required for transcendence varied, once a person woke up from his trance, it meant that the process had ended. At that moment, he sensed Su Ming opening his eyes in the cave abode. "If you choose freezing sky, then I'll speak to you," the old man mumbled to himself. The old man murmured to himself. Filled with regret and pity, he walked off into the distance. His back looked lonely, and as he left, the blue and blood-colored light faded away. In the end, the stone statue, which had its eyes closed the entire time, disappeared. "I failed." Su Ming opened his eyes in the cave abode and looked at the stone wall before him as he mumbled softly. It was dark and quiet around him. In that silence, Su Ming lifted his head. His expression was calm. There was no regret on his face, no emotion. Instead, in the darkness, he seemed to be asking himself whether it was worth it for him to give up on 2 powerful berserker marks. The Fire Moon is different from my tribe. I can't change my tribe and no longer be a member of Dark Mountain Tribe, but a Fire Berserker. The Fire Moon is different from my tribe. I can't change my tribe and no longer be a member of Dark Mountain Tribe, but a Fire Berserker. If that's the case, then I have no regrets. Su Ming could feel that after he gave up on the Berserker marks he obtained through his meditation twice, his power in the Transcendence realm seemed to have lost its liveliness and was showing signs of waning. What is a mark? Su Ming did not bother himself with the waning of his power. Instead, he lifted his head and looked at the dark stone wall above him as he mumbled. A mark is a manifestation of your heart. It's a unique state that belongs only to you. This was what the elder had told him in the past, and it was something that Su Ming had always remembered. Why do I need to meditate for my Berserker mark? Su Ming smiled. His smile was faint, but within that faint smile, there was a hint of understanding that no one else could see. Because the people in this world usually don't know who they are. They don't know what's in their hearts. They need to meditate and feel their own hearts. The Berserker mark is in truth a form of self-examination. Su Ming's eyes were calm. There was no hint of emotion within them, but a profound look gradually appeared in his eyes. I asked myself, and that's why the Fire Moon and freezing snow appeared. But this is just an illusion. Even if I asked myself and obtained them, they might not be what I want. Su Ming lifted his right hand and placed it before himself. He looked at his right hand, and a strange glint appeared in his eyes. On the contrary, it's precisely because I meditated and asked myself that I truly know what mark I need. Su Ming smiled and placed the tip of his right index finger by his lips. He bit down on it and blood flowed out. That blood was very sticky, and it contained the power of transcendence within Su Ming's body. When the power of transcendence gathered together, that blood was Berserker blood. I'll draw my Berserker mark with my Berserker blood. Su Ming's finger did not hesitate. He tapped the center of his brows and drew the first stroke of his Berserker mark towards his chin. It was a terrifying, blood-red line. It started from the center of his brows, went past the tip of his nose, went past his lips, and connected with his chin. If he drew his Berserker mark, the power of transcendence within his body would react, and a large amount of red mist would appear on his skin, just like before. Yet now that did not happen. My mark is the manifestation of my will. The light in Su Ming's eyes became brighter. There seemed to be some pictures in the depths of his eyes. Those pictures were deeply imprinted in his mind, and he would never forget them. He drew another line on his face with his right index finger and moved it past his left eye. Yet the power of transcendence within his body remained calm as he drew that line. It was not activated. It didn't come from my meditation. It came from me giving up on my meditation. Su Ming mumbled. He closed his eyes and drew the third line with his index finger. There were 3 long, blood-red lines on his face, but it was difficult to tell what he was drawing. Perhaps only the pictures in his closed eyes could clearly show the berserker mark Su Ming was drawing. It's not the moon of the fire berserker. Su Ming drew the fourth line, then the fifth. It's not the freezing snow. The bloodlines on his face looked a little messy. There might be a lot of them, but there was always a line missing that connected them together, causing others to be unable to see what he was drawing. Su Ming did not know how many strokes he had drawn. At that moment, his right index finger came to a stop. The instant he slowly opened his eyes, he swiped his index finger across the messy blood marks, and, as if he was putting his finishing touches on them, he connected all of them together to form a mountain with 5 summits. 5 summits, Dark Mountain. The moment the mark of Dark Mountain appeared, the power of transcendence within Su Ming's body was activated, causing his entire body to be filled with a large amount of red mist. That mist surged into the mark of the 5 summits, causing Dark Mountain to look as if it was real. If Tian Xiezi had not left, then once he saw this mark, he would definitely sigh. This was the mark of mountain, and it was one of the most common berserker marks. Yet similarly, once he sighed, he would definitely take in a sharp breath and turn his sigh into shock. That shock was so great that it surpassed the shock he felt from Su Ming's mark of the moon of fire in the freezing snow. It made him almost unable to believe it. Berserker marks were all simple. Drawing 2 things was already considered complicated, but now, Su Ming's robes were unbuttoned. He did not stop drawing Dark Mountain with his right index finger. Instead, as gentleness and nostalgia appeared in his eyes, he drew a tribe with each stroke of his hand. From tomorrow onwards, I will write 3 chapters a day. To be continued. If you like this work, please come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 206. Time trickled by without his knowledge. As Su Ming sat in the cave abode, he forgot about everything. He even forgot about entering Freezing Sky Clan. The only thing in his mind was the emptiness of his memories. That nostalgia spread out from his eyes and turned into a smile on his lips, but at the same time, there was also sadness in it. Su Ming could not tell what sort of emotions he was feeling. He drew the outline of the foot of Dark Mountain with his right hand, 1 stroke at a time. He drew the outline of the plants and trees in his memories, the familiar houses and the familiar fences. My berserker mark my soul, Su Ming mumbled. Sticky blood seeped out his right index finger as he drew and drew on his body. Dark Mountain, the tribe, the forest, the houses, and the bonfire that looked like it was burning. Everything was beautiful, but there was no one in the tribe. There was only desolation. As the days passed by, the Dark Mountain and the tribe and the blood mark on Su Ming's body gradually became complete. Red fog surged around Su Ming's body and continuously surged into the mark. Eventually, all the power of transcendence in his body turned into red fog. Once it fused with his berserker mark, the mark that covered Su Ming's upper body instantly looked alive, as if it had gained a life of its own. The mountain, the plants, the houses, and all the other things were clearly displayed on Su Ming's body. They turned into a majestic picture and turned into Su Ming's mark, with his home as his mark. At that moment, Su Ming did not know that this incredibly complicated mark was incredibly rare in the Berserker tribe. It did not belong to the 3-9 transformations of heaven, earth, and earth. If Tian Xiezi had not left and saw it, he would definitely be shocked. Due to the complexity of this mark, it would either end up as a mixed mark, and it would be difficult for it to improve in its entire life, or it would become a joke. Yet, once it did, the power that would erupt from it would be incredibly shocking. Several days later, the instant Su Ming's right index finger stopped moving, he opened his eyes once again and slowly lifted his right hand. The power of transcendence in his body surged forth and spread through his entire body. The true presence of transcendence erupted from his body. This aura far surpassed that of the blood condensation realm. In fact, it could even suppress those in the blood condensation realm. His hair moved without any wind as he sat down cross-legged. The red mist around his body gradually dissipated, leaving behind only the family tattoo on his upper body. There was a dark mountain on Su Ming's face and a tribe on his chest. The tribe was scattered around his chest, and every single blade of grass and tree could be seen clearly. Transcendent berserkers don't train their blood veins, they only train their marks. With their marks, as their power, they can display the great divine abilities of the berserker blood in their bodies. Su Ming mumbled. He had only heard about transcendence from the elder when he was young. The 4 realms of the transcendence realm are divided into the initial stage, middle stage, later stage, and the final great completion of the transcendence realm. The difficulty of breaking through to the bone sacrifice realm after attaining great completion is much higher compared to breaking through the blood solidification realm into the transcendence realm. Su Ming lifted his right hand and touched the mark on his face. There are many transcended berserkers who are unable to move forward and enter the bone sacrifice realm. They can't create their own berserker bones and can only fade away in the passage of time, leaving behind only regrets. Su Ming lifted his head and his eyes shone brightly. The berserker mark on his body shone with a red light, as if it was moving, a powerful force that could intimidate those in the middle and later stages of the transcendence realm. Even though he was only in the initial stage of the transcendence realm, erupted from Su Ming's body. The cave abode trembled. Even a mountain where the cave abode was located started trembling and letting out muffled rumbles. A large amount of dust scattered in all directions and formed a ring that tumbled outwards from the depths of the mountain. 999 blood veins in the transcendence realm. The power I have now. Su Ming lifted his right hand and clenched it slowly before him. I wonder how far away I am from the later stage of the transcendence realm. Su Ming took a deep breath and unclenched his right hand before him. Bell chimes immediately echoed in the area, and an ancient bell the size of a palm appeared in his hand. That bell was Han Mountain Bell. As he looked at the bell, a cold sneer appeared on Su Ming's lips. Sima Xian, with my current power and this treasure, just how far am I from you? Su Ming waved his arm and put away the ancient bell. Then he moved forward, and immediately the door to the cave abode before him shattered with a bang, turning into an endless amount of shattered stones that tumbled backwards. Su Ming walked out calmly. Behind him, the small Virescent sword let out a joyous sword whistle and surrounded Su Ming. Eventually, with a flash, it crawled into the center of Su Ming's brows, turning into a sword mark and hiding itself there. As for He Feng, he was trembling as he followed behind Su Ming like a servant. His heart was filled with anxiety. He had seen Su Ming transcending with his own eyes, and his respect towards him had already reached its peak. Su Ming stepped on the air and walked from the ground to midair. As he stood there, he did not intentionally circulate his power, but it was as if his body had become weightless. It was as if he had become one with the sky, and he could rise into the sky at will. The wind in midair was strong, and whimpering sounds traveled through the air. It lifted Su Ming's hair and made the long green robe he wore dance in the wind. He looked in the direction of Han Mountain City and lifted his right hand to touch the center of his brows with a calm expression. My berserker mark is still missing something, Su Ming mumbled. The moment he finished drawing his mark with his home as the mark, he came to an understanding. His mark was incomplete. I'll need to repair my mark in the transcendence realm. When my mark is complete, then I'll have attained great completion in the transcendence realm from the initial stage. Su Ming lowered his right hand from the center of his brows. The dark mountain mark on his face slowly disappeared, and even the mark of his home under his robes was hidden away. Unless a berserker activated his full power, his berserker mark would not be revealed easily. There's no hurry for my berserker mark. The most important thing now is to enter Freezing Sky Clan and search for the map to return home. A brilliant glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes before he regained his composure. He turned his head around and cast He Feng a glance. When Su Ming looked at He Feng, he immediately shuddered. A fawning look appeared instinctively on his face as he quickly bent his body and spoke loudly. Congratulations, Master, for successfully transcending and drawing your berserker mark. Master, you were born extraordinary. You're handsome and elegant, and your potential is shocking. With just one look, I can tell that you're not an ordinary person. You'll definitely be successful in the future, and with one. Yifeng was not used to saying these words. Some of his words could not convey his meaning, but it was enough to tell that his fear towards Su Ming was completely different from when he first met him. The suppression of their levels of cultivation caused all his thoughts to be restrained, especially when he saw Su Ming frown as he spoke. Yifeng immediately shut his mouth and put on a sentimental expression. Just as he was about to continue flattering Su Ming with a different attitude, Su Ming's voice traveled into his ears. That's enough. Come back. Yifeng quickly nodded. The sentimental expression on his face turned into reverence. His body turned into a wisp of green smoke and crawled into Su Ming's body before disappearing. However, what Su Ming did not know was that Yifeng's heart was filled with sentiments at that moment. However, his sentiments were not because of Su Ming becoming stronger, but because of himself. Yifeng, oh Yifeng, did you forget that you learned how to be flexible when you were young? It's just flattery, right? It's not difficult. I'll definitely get used to it. When this guy is happy, then everything will be easy. Yifeng made a decision in his heart. But this guy's power is too high now. He's changed too much over the past few years. If I have to blame someone, I can only blame myself for making the wrong judgment in the past. If I knew that his power would be so monstrous, I wouldn't have provoked him in the past. Yifeng was feeling slightly worried as he remained in Su Ming's body. I have to ease up our relationship. Flattery alone won't do. This person's intelligence is also increasing very quickly. Before long, I'll be useless to him. He won't be so kind as to let me go, especially when his power increases. Sooner or later, he'll know that if I refined a spirit body like mine into an enchanted vessel, it'll make the vessel stronger. When Yifeng thought of this, he was instantly filled with fear. There's no other way. I can only change my strategy and let him know some of my strengths. As Yifeng was immersed in his thoughts, Su Ming stepped in the air and turned into a long arc that charged towards Han Mountain City. He had already completed all his preparations. Next, he would have to return to Han Mountain City and enter Freezing Sky Clan. There are very few people who have seen my true appearance in Han Mountain City. Even when I transcended there, I hid my face and didn't reveal my true appearance. But there should be some people in Tranquil East Tribe who can recognize that I'm Mo Su. But that's not a problem. Han Song Zi once said that Freezing Sky Clan will only take in Han Fei Zi this time. Then if I want to go in, I'll have to act according to my plan. I'll show off my arrogance and shock everyone. Su Ming's expression was calm. He had chosen to transcend in Han Mountain because he wanted to gain a chance to enter Freezing Sky Clan. As he was thinking about it, Yifeng's respectful voice suddenly appeared in Su Ming's ears. Master, I actually still have a cave abode. Su Ming continued charging forward, ignoring Yifeng. Ahem, Master, I've decided to give you this cave abode as a congratulatory gift for you transcending. There's nothing else in this cave abode except for some stone coins. I've used various methods to obtain them over the years. Su Ming still ignored him. He looked in the direction of Han Mountain City and increased his speed. Yifeng waited for a while. When he saw that Su Ming was not tempted, he let out a bitter laugh and gritted his teeth. Master, it's not one cave abode, it's two. Both cave abodes have stone coins hidden in them. 3, Master, it's 3. 4. Master, I really only have 4 cave abodes left. The more Yifeng spoke, the more nervous he became. Where are they? Su Ming asked unhurriedly as he continued moving forward. When Yifeng heard his words, he felt at ease, but he could not help but feel his heart ache. However, he had to mend their relationship and get into Su Ming's good books. That was why he quickly told him the location. Once this guy sees those stone coins, he'll definitely ask me how I obtained them in surprise. At that time, it'll be time for me to show off my merits. As Yifeng thought about it, he gradually became pleased with himself. To be continued. If you like this work, please come Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 207. Su Ming did not immediately return to Han Mountain City. Instead, he changed his direction and went to the 4 cave abodes He-Feng had told him. Once he found the locations and saw the stone coins He-Feng had hidden in the cave abodes, he could not help but be surprised. There were a lot of stone coins in He-Feng's 4 cave abodes. It far surpassed what he had stored in his storage bag in the past. Once he saw the stone coins, Su Ming did not hold back. He waved his arm and put them all into his storage bag before he turned around and left. He-Feng waited for a while. When he saw that Su Ming was still charging toward Han Mountain without any intention of asking anything, he was momentarily stunned. This was slightly different from what he had imagined. He waited for a while longer before He-Feng could not help but speak. "Master, these stone coins are good, right?" "Not bad," Su Ming said calmly. "It's my greatest honor to be able to work for you and make you satisfied. As long as you think they're good, then it's fine. If you lack money in the future, don't worry. With my abilities, I'll definitely earn a lot of stone coins for you." He-Feng carefully changed the topic to his own plans. "All right." Su Ming's answer was straightforward. Once he finished saying that word, he no longer spoke. As he charged forward, he got closer to Han Mountain City. He-Feng was feeling rather gloomy. He hesitated for a moment before he quickly spoke again. "Master, this lowly one only used a few years to get these stone coins. This lowly one is not bragging. This lowly one is very good at buying and selling items. Actually, this lowly one is very good at trading items. Actually, this lowly one is very good at it." "Oh?" A barely discernible smile appeared on Su Ming's lips. He could tell a long time ago that He-Feng had something to say, or else he would not have given him such a huge gift. When he heard Su Ming's reply, He-Feng's spirits lifted. He immediately used the chance to tell Su Ming about his own skills. "I'm not bragging. It's true, master. I have an innate talent when it comes to buying and selling items. Bargaining is actually a small-scale clash of minds. This sort of thing is easy for me. That's how I got these stone coins. I have a status in Han Mountain City, and it's not any weaker than Master in most Su's. I'm quite famous. Master, it's not that I'm bragging, but if you let me manage your finances, I'll definitely help you earn several times more. If there's anything you like, just tell me and let me talk about it." "I'm not bragging." The more He-Feng spoke, the more excited he became. In fact, he even mentioned his glorious achievements in the past few years. However, whenever he mentioned these things, there was always one sentence that kept repeating in his words. "I'm not bragging. Master, it really wasn't me. I was just bragging to you." As he listened to He-Feng's words, the smile remained on Su Ming's face. He suddenly felt that the current He-Feng was perhaps his true self. He-Feng continued boasting along the way. When the sky gradually darkened, Han Mountain appeared before Su Ming's eyes. As he looked at Han Mountain, the smile on Su Ming's face gradually faded away. He brought out the black mask from his bosom and put it on his face, turning into Mo Su. He did not immediately go to Han Mountain City, but instead walked towards Tranquil East Mountain. Tranquil East Mountain stood tall in the dusk. It was the same as usual, with a majestic presence. However, the mountain was now very different in Su Ming's eyes. When he first came to the mountain, he had been slightly nervous. The second time he came, he was no longer nervous, but he still could not easily enter the mountain. Yet this was the third time he stood at the foot of Tranquil East Mountain. His body might be as small as an ant compared to the mountain, but in his heart, he could step on this mountain. He did not call out to it. Su Ming stood at the foot of the mountain and walked up the stairs. The moment his foot landed, the mountain suddenly trembled, and a wave of pressure enveloped him. That pressure was not sentient. It was clear that it was formed by Tranquil East's mountain protection art. When a mountain was closed, it was used to prevent outsiders from entering. Su Ming's expression was calm. The pressure came crashing down, but when it was 100 feet away from him, it seemed to have run into an invisible barrier. It stopped abruptly and turned into a booming sound that echoed in the air, but it could not move any further. With the mask on his face, Su Ming walked up the mountain. When he took 10 steps, whistling sounds traveled into the air. There were dozens of people charging towards him from the mountain. All of them had respectful expressions on their faces. They stopped when they were still a distance away from Su Ming and bowed deeply towards him. Welcome, serene. Su Ming nodded his head slightly and continued walking forward. He was not fast, but with each step he took, he would take a dozen-something steps toward the top of the mountain. At that moment, another dozen-something people charged towards him. The person in the lead was the tribe leader of Tranquil East, Fang Shun. The people following behind him were all powerful berserkers of Tranquil East. Once they appeared, their expressions were complicated and respectful as they bowed deeply towards Su Ming. Welcome, Sir. Fang Shun took a few brisk steps forward. When he was 100-something feet away from Su Ming, an excited look appeared on his face as he wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed. I, Fang Shun, tribe leader of Tranquil East, greet you, sir. Su Ming's footsteps came to a halt. He looked at Fang Shun and spoke calmly. Tribe leader, you don't have to do this. I'm here once again to fulfill my promise. Bring me to Fang Mu. Thank you for fulfilling my wish, sir. Fang Shun bowed towards Su Ming once again. When he stood up, he looked at Su Ming with a gaze that was difficult to hide the shock and respect in his eyes. He looked at Mo Su before him, and the scenes of him meeting Mo Su in the past surfaced in his head. Sir, please. My son's matter is not a problem. Please enter Tranquil East Tower and receive our respect. The elder is making preparations right now. He will personally receive you later. There's no need for such trouble. As Su Ming spoke, he spread out his branding art. Once he reached the Transcendence realm, his branding art had also improved. As he spread it out, it covered most of the mountain, and he immediately found Fang Mu. Su Ming took a step forward and rose into the air, turning into a long arc that charged towards Fang Mu's house at the mountainside. Fang Shun quickly gave some instructions to the people beside him before he stood up and followed behind Su Ming. There was a normal stone house at the mountainside of Tranquil East Mountain. Han Song-zi was sitting cross-legged outside with a frown on her face. There was a melancholic look on her face. Her current appearance, coupled with her blue dress, gave her a different kind of beauty. A whistling sound traveled into the air. Han Song-zi seemed to have been startled awake. She lifted her head, and when she saw the masked Su Ming in the long arc in the sky, her eyes brightened. The long arc descended, and once it disappeared, it turned into Su Ming. He looked at Han Song-zi and nodded his head. Greetings, Brother Mo. Han Song-zi stood up and spoke softly. There was a hint of joy in her voice. How's Fang Mu? Su Ming cast a glance at Han Song-zi before his gaze fell on the house behind her. Han Song-zi hesitated for a moment before she whispered, Not too well. Sima Xian activated the Berserker seed in Mu Er's body beforehand. Once he left, Mu Er fell into a coma. From my understanding of Sima Xian's arts, Mu Er's life force has been blocked. Han Song-zi spoke softly, and grief appeared on her face. Su Ming remained silent for a moment before he spoke slowly. I'm responsible for this. Sir, don't blame yourself. This will happen sooner or later. Fang Shun's voice came from behind Su Ming. Fang Shun walked towards him with a dark expression. In truth, I knew a long time ago that Mu Er's body wasn't injured, but Sima Xian planted the Berserker seed in him. When I met you in the past, I didn't have much hope. I just wanted others to think that I didn't know. Please forgive me for this. Fang Shun let out a long sigh and bowed towards Su Ming once again. Su Ming did not look at Fang Shun. He walked toward the house behind Han Song-zi and pushed open the door. The moment the door was pushed open, a gust of cold air came crashing into his face. That cold air spread out to an area of hundreds of feet, and wherever it went, a thin layer of ice would appear on the ground. The moment the door was opened, everything within was revealed clearly. The room was not big, but at that moment, it was filled with cold air. There was also a layer of ice around it, and there was a teenager lying on the stone bed in the room. The teenager did not move. His face was purplish black, and there was a large amount of frost covering his entire body, making him look like a frozen corpse. Su Ming remained silent for a moment before he walked into the house. The moment he did so, arcs of blue lightning immediately swam through his entire body and spread out from his feet to the ground. They swam through the layers of ice around him, and cracking sounds reverberated in the air. Immediately, The layers of ice started showing signs of cracking. It was especially so under Su Ming's feet. As he walked past them, the layer of ice behind him completely shattered, revealing the ground. When Su Ming stood beside Fong Mu, a large amount of lightning swam through his body. It looked as if Su Ming was surrounded by lightning. As he looked at the unconscious and dying Fong Mu, Su Ming lifted his right hand abruptly. Lightning gathered on his right hand, eventually turning it into a large amount of lightning. Just as he was about to touch the center of Fong Mu's brows, "Sir, please wait," an old voice said. A long arc charged towards them from outside the house. Once it landed on the ground, it turned into an old man. That old man was the elder of Tranquil East. He took a few brisk steps forward and walked past Fong Shun, who had a conflicted look on his face. Just as he was about to step into Fong Mu's house, Su Ming turned his head around and cast a cold glance at the old man. Under Su Ming's gaze, the elder of Tranquil East tribe's heart shuddered. A wave of danger and pressure rose within him, causing his heart to immediately race. His lifted foot came to an abrupt halt, and he stood outside the house. He did not dare take another step forward, but instead bowed deeply towards Su Ming. "Greetings, sir. I am the elder of Tranquil East. Sir, on account of the fact that Tranquil East tribe has never offended you, please spare Tranquil East tribe. I will be eternally grateful." A bitter look appeared on the elder of Tranquil East's face. He did not get up from his bow. "Why would you say that?" Su Ming asked unhurriedly. "Sir, if you save this child, then Tranquil East tribe will definitely offend Sir Sima. Once Sir Sima is angry, our tribe will not be able to withstand it. Fong Mu has done nothing wrong. His mistake is that he should not have been born in Tranquil East." The old man said in a low voice, "Fong Mu is your child. You choose." Su Ming remained silent for a moment. He looked at Fong Mu, but his words were clearly directed at Fong Shun. Fong Shun trembled. The struggle on his face became stronger. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 208. Fong Shun opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he could not. His body trembled and his heart clenched in pain. His face instantly turned pale, and as he looked at Fong Mu lying on the bed, he looked as if he was struggling to make a decision. "Brother." Han Songzi looked at Fong Shun and spoke softly, but that was all she could say. How could he choose? She had already left Tranquil East tribe and became a disciple of Freezing Sky clan. She could not replace Fong Shun. "Fong Shun, you are the tribe leader of Tranquil East tribe. You carry the fate of our tribe on your shoulders," the elder of Tranquil East tribe said calmly. "Sooner or later, this day will come." Fong Shun looked at his child, and the struggle in his eyes gradually disappeared, replaced by determination. "All humans must die. He's my child. He shouldn't be my child," Fong Shun mumbled. Su Ming fell silent. He looked at Fong Mu by his side, at his purplish-black face, as if he could feel his pain. Perhaps it was only his body that was in pain, but if Fong Mu could hear the words of the world around him, then the pain would be coming from his soul. When it came to life and death, the decision was in his father's hands. What should he choose? Was he to ignore offending Sima Exine and risk the great sacrifice to save him? Or not to save him? He's still conscious. "He can hear your choice," Su Ming said slowly. He saw a tear falling down from the corner of Fong Mu's eye at that moment, but before it fell, it turned into a line of ice crystals. Fong Shun trembled even more violently. He staggered forward into the house and approached Fong Mu in the freezing air. The man, who did not look old, seemed to have aged in an instant. He knelt down by the bed, trembling, and lifted his right hand, ignoring the cold, to touch Fong Mu's face. "Mu'er, I'm sorry. I'm the tribe leader of Tranquil East tribe. Then I'm your father. That's why I pretended not to know about the source of your injuries all these years. I pretended to search for a way to cure you to hide my knowledge. Every single time I see you trying to prove something to me, my heart hurts," Fong Shun mumbled, and tears appeared on his face. "Fong Shun, let the child die on his own. We can't save him. We can't save him." The elder of tranquil East tribe sighed, and a complicated look appeared on his face. We can't save him? Yes, I'm a tribe leader of tranquil East tribe. Fong Shun's smile gradually turned into a loud laugh, but there was sadness within it. It's because I'm a tribe leader of tranquil East. I know everything, but I can't tell him. Instead, I have to put on an act. Serene, tell me, what are the chances of us saving Fong Mu? Red appeared in Fong Shun's eyes as he turned his head to look at Su Ming. Su looked at Fong Shun, and a barely noticeable glint appeared in his eyes. I'm not confident. Not even 10%, he said slowly. But if I attack, even if I don't succeed, Sima Xin will still notice it. That's why you have to think this through. Su Ming no longer looked at Fong Shun. His gaze fell on Fong Mu instead. Fong I shun to Shun said he, I su to the two. Shun asked to Fong to say. Fong Shun's face was drained of blood. He slowly lowered his head and stared at Fong Mu. Fong Shun, Sir Mo has already said that the possibility of saving Fong Mu is slim to none. This is decided. The elder of tranquil East tribe let out a long sigh in his heart and spoke in a low voice. Han Songzi was outside the house. At that moment, her face was drained of blood. She leaned against the wall beside her, as if she had lost all her strength. The sadness in her eyes became stronger. Fong Shun fell silent. After a long while, he stood up slowly and closed his eyes, cutting off his gaze from his son. His body was still trembling. He turned around and walked out of the house, as if he was struggling to lift his foot. The moment he turned around, he did not see that the ice crystals at the corners of Fong Mu's eyes had increased. Fong Shun's face seemed to have aged in an instant. With his back turned towards Fong Mu, he took a step forward. The moment he took that step, his heart seemed to shatter. The image of Fong Mu being happy when he was young appeared before his eyes. He sat on Fong Shun's neck and laughed cheerfully as a child. Papa, Papa! Tears fell from Fong Shun's eyes as he took his second step. However, the moment his second step landed, Fong Shun let out a long sigh, and his body stopped. Elder, Fong Shun said in a low voice. The elder of tranquil East tribe was silent, but there was a fierce look in his eyes. I have been the tribe leader of tranquil East tribe for 19 years. During these 19 years, I have been the tribe leader of tranquil East tribe, not Mu'er's father. But now, I will choose my responsibilities as a father. I, Fong Shun, will voluntarily leave tranquil East tribe and resign from the position of tribe leader. From now on, I will no longer have anything to do with tranquil East tribe. If Mu'er survives, I will take him away. If Mu'er dies, I will kill myself as an apology. What did you say? Even Sir Mo doesn't have the confidence to save him. Why do you have to do this for a child who has no hope? The fierce look in the elder of tranquil East tribe's eyes became even sharper. Fong Shun lifted his head and looked at the elder of tranquil East tribe. A resolute look appeared on his face. I'm his father. When those words fell into Su Ming's ears, he shuddered. He looked at Fong Shun, then at Fong Mu, and let out a soft sigh. When he saw that the elder of tranquil East tribe was about to fly into a rage, Su Ming lifted his right hand and swung it at Fong Shun. His attack was extremely sudden. With a wave of his hand, a large amount of lightning appeared around Fong Shun. After a thunderous rumble, Fong Shun coughed up a mouthful of blood. His body was thrown out of the house and landed outside. He struggled to get up in a daze, but when the lightning flashed around his body, he fainted. Soon after, a bell chime reverberated within Su Ming's body. That bell chime did not travel too far. It only traveled within the house. When the elder of tranquil East tribe heard it, his body trembled and he retreated several hundreds of feet away before he managed to regain his footing. His face turned pale. He looked at Su Ming and seemed to have understood something. In silence, he looked at the unconscious Fong Shun. With a long sigh, he lifted his right hand and struck his chest. With that one strike, he coughed out blood and fell down. I met you the first time I came to the land of South Morning. This is fate. If that's the case, then I will take responsibility for Sima Xin. You have a good father. Su Ming's right hand landed on the center of Fong Mu's brows. The moment his palm landed, Fong Mu's body trembled viciously. The ice on his body was instantly covered by lightning, and with cracking sounds, it shattered inch by inch. However, at the same time that the layer of frost on his body shattered, another wave of coldness spread out from within Fong Mu's body. It seemed as if it was about to form frost again. Once the last of his life force was used up, Fong Mu would die. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. Almost the moment the freezing air appeared once again, he lifted his right hand. Immediately, a white medicinal pill appeared in the midst of the lightning sparks in his hand. That medicinal pill was the size of a baby's fist. It was round and did not look like something that could be eaten, but more like an enchanted treasure. The moment it appeared, a suction force spread out, causing a large amount of the freezing air in the house to immediately surge towards it. It was as if the medicinal pill was a void that could absorb everything in the world. Spirit plunder. Su Ming might not have known the name and origins of the Berserker seed in Fong Mu's body, but he could tell that there was a hint of the power of his Berserker mark nourishing it. Su Ming believed that Spirit Plunder would be effective against his Berserker mark. Now, the nourished Berserker mark in Fong Mu's body had already withered away. There was not much of it left, but it was precisely because of this that Fong Mu, who had lost a large amount of his life force, could not withstand its existence. That was why his life was hanging by a thread. If he could get rid of the withered Berserker mark, then the transcended Su Ming would not only have a 10% chance of success, he would have complete success. The moment Spirit Plunder appeared, it not only absorbed the freezing air around him, it also made the purplish-black color on Fong Mu's face look as if it had come alive. It turned into mist on his skin and started tumbling about, as if it wanted to sink into Fong Mu's body to hide. Yet when Su Ming swung his right hand, Spirit Plunder floated down slowly and stuck itself to the center of Fong Mu's brows. The purplish-black aura was immediately absorbed and charged towards the medicinal pill. A large amount of the purplish-black aura was continuously absorbed by the medicinal pill. Gradually, a layer of frost appeared on the surface of the medicinal pill, but the speed at which it absorbed the aura did not slow down. Instead, it became faster. After a moment, a barely discernible roar came from within Fong Mu's body. Once all the purplish-black aura was absorbed, a purple snowflake appeared on Fong Mu's face. The snowflake seemed to have been buried deep within Fong Mu's body. At that moment, it was finally forced out. As Fong Mu's body trembled furiously, it finally approached Spirit Plunder and was sucked in. Once the medicinal pill absorbed the snowflake, its color instantly changed to purple. Waves of freezing air spread out from within, and its appearance changed drastically. It spun a few rounds slowly before floating towards Su Ming and landing on his right palm. The moment he touched the medicinal pill, a wave of freezing air seeped into Su Ming's body, but it was quickly melted away. At the same time, a feeling similar to that of an enchanted treasure appeared on the medicinal pill. Its color also gradually changed until it turned white once again. The insides of the pill were slightly transparent, and within the depths of the pill, a purple snow could be seen sealed within. I can save your life, but I can't make up for the life force you've lost. Take care of yourself. Our fate ends here, Su Ming said calmly and put away Spirit Plunder. He looked at Fong Mu, whose face was no longer purplish-black, whose body was no longer covered in frost, and who was struggling to open his eyes, then turned around and walked outside. Senior. Fong Mu opened his eyes weakly and saw a graceful silhouette. However, for some reason, when he looked at this silhouette, he could vaguely see a hint of desolation and loneliness in it. Outside the house, Han Songzi looked at Su Ming's back and lowered her head. On the ground, the elder of Tranquil East Tribe opened his eyes. There was a complicated and respectful look in his eyes before he closed them once again. By her side, Fang Shun also opened his eyes as he trembled. There was gratitude and shame in his eyes. He did not faint. Su Ming walked towards Han Mountain City in the darkness at the foot of Tranquil East Mountain. His long hair danced in the wind and blended into the darkness. Ahem, master, you seem to have been tricked, I know. Huh? Then why did you save him just now? Su Ming looked at the unfamiliar stars in the sky and did not answer. To be continued. If you like this work, please come at Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 209. There are some weak lights swaying in the wind in Han Mountain City at night. If Su Ming looked in the direction where the lights came from, he would be able to see inns that were still occupied even at night. Su Ming walked down the streets of Han Mountain City and looked at the familiar houses around him. He walked past them quietly. I've been here for many years. Su Ming's footsteps came to a halt. Before him was an inn. There were not many customers in the inn, and most of them were drinking alone. Occasionally, they would talk to each other in whispers. There was a table by the door, and the innkeeper was a man in his 20s. He rested his chin on his hands and fell asleep. An indescribable feeling surrounded Han Mountain City, as if it had turned into an oppressive feeling that fell heavily on the hearts of all the people in the city. That was why there were still people drinking in the inns, even in the middle of the night. I'm here again. Su Ming looked at the inn. He remembered that when he first came to Han Mountain City, he had met He Feng and Han Feizi here. I came here, and now I'm going to leave. It's still the same place. Su Ming smiled and decided not to move forward anymore. He stepped into the inn. The environment inside was the same as in his memories. Su Ming did not attract too much attention when he walked in. Only the sleeping innkeeper opened his eyes and cast a glance at Su Ming. As if he was moved by the wind, Su Ming sent into the inn. Su Ming's current appearance was his real appearance. There were simply too few people who had seen his current appearance in Han Mountain City. Even if someone had seen him before, it would be difficult for them to connect him with the famous berserkers who had attained completion in the Transcendence realm or the equally famous Mo Su. Su Ming walked into the inn and sat down at the table he had sat at all those years ago. Not long after, the innkeeper walked over while yawning. He did not ask anything, but placed 2 pots of wine on the table along with some food to go with the wine. Then he left and returned to the table by the door. He rested his chin on his hands and dozed off once again. Su Ming picked up the pot of wine and brought it to his lips to take a sip. The wine tasted the same as when he drank it in the past. It tasted spicy in his mouth, and it was as if there was a line of fire in his chest. It was quiet all around. Only the owner's snoring could be heard echoing in the air. The others, including Su Ming, were all drinking quietly. Some of them were frowning, and there was a hint of resignation and indignation on their faces. It was the same atmosphere that enveloped Han Mountain City. Even the inn was filled with an oppressive atmosphere. Su Ming lowered his head and continued drinking. He did not look at the people around him. No one was observing him in the inn in the middle of the night. All of them were thinking about their own matters. Time passed slowly. After about the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the sound of footsteps came from outside. 2 men in blue robes walked in silently. After stepping into the inn, they sat down beside a table and chairs. Their expressions were gloomy, and they did not say a word. Another friend who wants to drink away his sorrows. Han Mountain City is different from before these past few days. Sitting at a table not too far away from Su Ming was a middle-aged man in blue robes. He held a pot of wine and let out a burp. It was clear that he had drunk a little too much. He chuckled softly, but all the people in the inn could tell that his chuckle was one of self-deprecation. Freezing Sky Clan disappointed everyone this time. I didn't expect. The silence previously in the inn was broken slightly. Another person spoke in a low, self-deprecating tone. We are indeed disappointed, but what can we do? The envoys from Freezing Sky Clan have already said that they will only be taking in one disciple this time, and that is Lake of Colors Tribe's Han Feizi. One of the 2 men in blue robes slammed his right hand on the table. Innkeeper, hurry up and bring me wine. That one slap and shout immediately made the sleeping innkeeper jolt awake. He quickly got up and brought food and wine over. Why are you throwing a tantrum at the innkeeper? If you're so great, go and look for the envoys from Freezing Sky Clan. Freezing Sky Clan didn't say that they won't be taking in anyone else this time. Oomph. It's true that they didn't say it clearly, but who in Han Mountain City can get the right to enter the sect? The man who slammed the table laughed coldly. There was a resigned look in his eyes. However, the man in blue robes sitting beside him did not say a single word. He just sat there quietly and did not utter a single word. Besides, it's just the right. Once we get the right, whether we can enter Freezing Sky Clan will depend on their subsequent tests. They're basically telling us that they're only taking in one disciple this time. Freezing Sky Clan is powerful. We all want to enter, but we can't go against Freezing Sky's will. So what? An old man in cotton robes who had drunk too much and was sprawled on the table lifted his head. With a drunken look on his face, he mocked them with a mocking smile. I heard that Sir Nantion and the other two transcended berserkers went to visit the envoys from Freezing Sky together, but they returned disappointed. Sir Kujiosi even left Han Mountain City in anger. Right now, the only transcended berserkers in the city are Sir Nantion and Sir Lung Ying. The envoys from Freezing Sky Clan don't even care about the transcended berserkers. What can we do? The sounds of discussions echoed in the inn. The words about Freezing Sky Clan seemed to have resonated with the people. The anger, helplessness, and depression gradually became stronger. Su Ming sat by the table in the corner and drank as he listened to the words falling into his ears. So many things happened during the time I drew my berserker mark, but Freezing Sky Clan's actions are in line with my expectations. Su Ming picked up the pot of wine and lifted his head to look at the people who were discussing the matter angrily not too far away. He stood up and walked over. He placed the pot of wine on the table of the two men in green robes. Once he attracted their attention, Su Ming swept his gaze past the man who had been silent all this while, then looked at the man who had slammed the table. "Brother, can I sit here?" Su Ming asked with a smile. The man frowned and cast a few glances at Su Ming. He was frustrated and was about to scold him when his silent companion nodded his head. When the man saw his companion nodding his head, he was momentarily stunned and did not speak. Su Ming sat down with a smile and picked up the pot of wine to take a sip. "I have a question I'd like to ask." "Sir, please ask." The person who spoke was the man in blue robes who had been silent all this while. His voice was hoarse. This was the first time he spoke. The others did not think much of it, but his companion, the man who had slammed the table just now, had a surprised look on his face. He knew that his companion had a noble status, but he did not like to talk. He was used to being silent, but there was a hint of arrogance in his bones. He usually ignored everyone. If it was not because he had no other choice, he would not have come to the inn to drink with him. Su Ming looked at the man with the hoarse voice and asked languidly, "Is the entry requirement from Freezing Sky Clan related to the chains of Han Mountain?" "No. Ever since the Lord Divine General walked past the chains of Han Mountain, the envoys from Freezing Sky Clan came and announced that the entry requirement is no longer the chains of Han Mountain," the man said hoarsely. There was a hint of hesitation and respect in his gaze as he looked at Su Ming. "Sir, did you just come to Han Mountain City? How could you not know about this? The chains of Han Mountain have been canceled and the entry requirements have been reformulated. If you want to get in, you only need to do one thing." The person who spoke was a young man standing not too far away. He held a cup of wine in his hand and drank it in one gulp. There was a self-deprecating look on his face. It's easy to say, challenge all the powerful berserkers in the Transcendence realm in Han Mountain and the three tribes, and each challenge is limited to one attack. If you succeed in all your challenges, then you'll have the right to enter the clan, but that's just the right. Whether you can enter Freezing Sky Clan will depend on their subsequent tests. This isn't a test. It's obvious that they're rejecting us. Freezing Sky Clan has already made up their mind to only take one person. The sounds of discussion rose once again in the inn. Besides drinking to vent their anger, the people had no other way to fight back against the infuriating entry requirement of Freezing Sky Clan. There are only 2 days left. Once these 2 days are over, the envoys from Freezing Sky Clan will leave with Han Fei Zi. At that time, the disciple recruitment will end. If you want to enter Freezing Sky Clan, then you'll have to wait for another 10 years. It's not that there's no one who can do it. the man of few words sitting beside Su Ming suddenly said, "If the Lord Divine General comes back, he'll definitely succeed. It's clear now." The envoys from Freezing Sky Clan announced that the entry requirement will not be based on the chains of Han Mountain. It's clear that they're targeting the Lord Divine General. Even if the Lord comes back, he'll definitely face some difficulties. Besides the Lord Divine General, perhaps Sir Yunzong, who's said to have gone out to train, will also have chance. There's also Mo Su, that mysterious, powerful berserker in the Transcendence realm. If he appears, perhaps he'll also have chance. Besides these three people, no one else in the entire Han Mountain can do it. Su Ming did not speak again. Instead, he sat by the table and drank his wine. When the sky outside gradually brightened, most of the people in the inn stopped their discussions. Some of them even chose to leave. The hesitation on the face of the taciturn man beside Su Ming grew stronger. He cast a glance at Su Ming, hesitated for a moment, then got up and bowed towards him. Then, he left the inn with his astonished companion. At that moment, besides Su Ming, who was still drinking, there were 3 other people left in the inn. However, all 3 of them were already drunk. They were sprawled on the table and snoring nonstop. This person's power has already reached the Transcendence realm. Su Ming's gaze fell on the back of the man who had been quiet as he left the inn. The man who Su Ming's gaze swept past took a few brisk steps outside the inn. A grave expression appeared on his face, and the hesitation in his eyes turned into shock. "Brother Yin, what's wrong? Is there something strange about that person?" His companion asked in a low voice. "Quiet. Don't talk about this person, this person." The silent man with a hoarse voice took a deep breath and turned his head around to look at the inn behind him. He might not be able to see Su Ming, but there was deep respect in his eyes. "This person isn't someone we can provoke or talk about. He only said one sentence to me just now, but it made my heart jump. Even the chi in my body started trembling. What level of cultivation does he have?" The man's companion was momentarily stunned, and his expression immediately changed. The man named Yin fell silent for a moment before he spoke slowly. "Even the elders of the 3 tribes can't make me this nervous." "What level of cultivation do you think he has?" To be continued. If you like this work, please come Achidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 210. Han Mountain City woke up from its slumber in the morning. There were more people on the streets, but the city was still shrouded in an oppressive atmosphere. Before the envoys from Freezing Sky Clan arrived, the people had been filled with anticipation. Yet now that they had arrived, the result was the same. There were only 2 days left. The envoys from Freezing Sky Clan would leave 2 days later. There was not much time left for the people in Han Mountain City. Yet no matter how much time they had, these people in the blood solidification realm would not be able to obtain the harsh qualifications to enter the sect. Even transcendents were difficult. Kujiosi had even left in anger. What could the others do? As the weak, they did not have the right to choose. They did not have the right to set the rules. They could only struggle to survive under the rules set by the strong. During the day, there were more people in the inn. It might be livelier than at night, but it was clearly different from usual. Sometimes there would be silence. They could not struggle against Freezing Sky Clan silence as they waited for 2 days to pass. Perhaps 2 days later, when everything was settled, the oppressive atmosphere would disappear. Su Ming continued sitting in the inn, drinking and looking at the sky outside the window. Occasionally, he would hear helpless discussions and angry shouts towards Freezing Sky Clan. He had been sitting there for a long time, from the previous night until noon. The sun shone brightly, bringing with it a wave of heat that spread into the inn and was drunk along with his wine. It was rare for him to have such peace. In his memories, the only time he did not need to train, isolate himself, hide, or fight was when he was in Dark Mountain. Ever since he came to the land of South Morning, this sort of peace was rare, and he treasured it. As he sat there, the sky became a little dark. When dusk arrived, cries of surprise came from outside. There was also a rumble coming from the distance, followed by broken laughter. Someone failed again. Only mad people would challenge those in the blood solidification realm to transcend. But if they don't do it, they can only give up. Thank goodness Sir Nan and Sir Lung Ing took pity on us outsiders of Han Mountain. All those who challenged them were only injured but not killed. This move from Freezing Sky Clan is very ruthless. Sir Nan and Sir Lung Ing are also helpless against it. Unless they choose to leave like Sir Kujio Si, then their existence will be the first obstacle that will stop others from obtaining the right to enter. But what can they do? Even if they pretend to lose, they're just harming others. Once the transcended berserkers from the three tribes challenge them, they won't hold back. Su Ming lowered his head and continued drinking. When dusk passed and night fell once again, most of the people in the inn had left. Just like the previous night, there were only a few people who were drinking to drown their sorrows. Two of them had also been here last night. One of them was the old man, and the other was a drunken youth. "Brother, you've been here for the whole day, right? Come, we might not know each other, but we're both people who were abandoned by Freezing Sky Clan. Let's drink." The young man picked up the pot of wine and went to Su Ming's table with a smile. Su Ming smiled faintly, picked up the wine pot, and started drinking. "I am Luo Lin. What is your name?" "Su Ming." Su Ming put down the pot of wine. This was the first time he said his name in Han Mountain City. "Brother Su, drink." The young man didn't seem to mind and took another big gulp of wine. Not long after, the old man who had also stayed here last night also walked over with the pot of wine. He looked at Su Ming and the young man and let out a bark of laughter. "We're both people who have fallen. I don't have the heart to train these few days. It's a good thing that after tomorrow, we won't have to worry anymore. Let's spend our last night together, shall we?" This night was very different for Su Ming as he drank. Besides the two people at the same table, the other people from Han Mountain who came to the inn at night were mostly familiar with each other. As they introduced themselves to each other, the people in the inn did not talk about Freezing Sky Clan. Instead, a group of dejected men drank with each other in the midst of the sounds of wine being poured out. To them, Su Ming was clearly a person who had just arrived in Han Mountain City and wanted to see if he could join Freezing Sky Clan. He was the same as them, and there was nothing different about him. The young man, called Su Ming, might not have many words, but there was always a smile on his face. When he drank, he was even more forthright. Gradually, as the night passed, the people in the inn slowly accepted Su Ming's existence. When midnight arrived, the two men in blue robes also appeared in the inn. They sat down at the table beside Su Ming and joined the group. However, the man named Yin would occasionally look at Su Ming with deep respect hidden within his gaze. As for his companion, he seemed to be unable to let loose and was very reserved. However, once he drank a lot, he slowly started drinking loudly again. The night passed by without anyone noticing it. When the sky became bright, the people in the inn also slowly fell silent. It's the last day. The old man held the empty pot of wine, and a melancholic look appeared on his face. "This is the third time I've come to Han Mountain City, but all 3 times I wasn't fated to join Freezing Sky Clan. I don't know whether there will be a 4th time. Perhaps there won't be." The old man smiled bitterly. "It's daylight now. The envoys from Freezing Sky Clan should be leaving today. I won't come again at night. If we're fated to meet again, we'll meet again." The young man wanted to be carefree, but as he spoke, he sighed. "It's a pity that even when it ended, we didn't see Sir Yunzong. There's also that mysterious Mo Su. No one has ever seen his face. It's just rumored that his power is incredibly high. It's a pity that he didn't appear." There were a dozen-something people who had been drinking by Su Ming's side. Once the silence was broken, they started discussing among themselves. The blue-robed man named Yun had his head lowered. When he heard someone mention Yun Zhang's name, he let out a soft sigh. His companion hesitated for a moment before he looked towards him. "I'm looking forward to the Lord Divine General." "That's right. If the Lord Divine General comes back, he'll definitely let Freezing Sky Clan know that there are prodigies among the outsiders in Han Mountain City." I still remember the scene when the Lord Divine General faced Puqiang tribe. Every single time I remember it, I can't help but feel my blood boil. It's a pity that he didn't come back. Lord Divine General, where are you? The young man sitting across Su Ming suddenly shouted, then started laughing. There was a hint of drunkenness on his face. Perhaps it was not the wine that made people drunk, but the desire to get drunk. Lord Divine General, where are you? The old man by the side also shouted loudly as he laughed. As they spoke, the others around them also started laughing. There was resignation in their laughter, along with anticipation, but most of all, it was a form of venting their displeasure towards Freezing Sky Clan. They longed for someone to appear and enter Freezing Sky Clan, even if that person was not them. However, they also wanted Freezing Sky Clan to know that there were prodigies among the outsiders in Han Mountain City. Lord Divine General, where are you? Lord Divine General, where are you? Loud roars came from inside the tavern. Under the morning sun, these roars were made by more than 10 men at the same time. These were the roars that they had suppressed for several days. These roars spread out of the tavern and into the other taverns nearby. Slowly, the same voices came from the people who were also drinking in another and not too far away. It was as if an echo had rung out of their mouths. Lord Divine General, where are you? Once these voices came from the second inn, they gradually spread out until it was the last morning before the envoys from Freezing Sky Clan were about to leave. These voices were like a huge wave, and wherever they went, the same voices would follow. The ones who shouted were not the people in the inn. Almost all the outsiders of Han Mountain who had been depressed and silent for the past few days joined in when they heard this voice and shouted this sentence after hearing it. The voices were like a storm that swept through the entire Han Mountain City. Eventually, they slowly quieted down. The moment they did so, Su Ming lifted his head and took a big swig from his wine pot. He stood up. My friends, thank you for keeping me company for the past 2 nights. I have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. Su Ming looked at the people before him. When his gaze fell on a man named Yun, he saw the excitement and hope in the man's eyes. Little brother Su, have a safe trip. I'll be leaving Han Mountain City soon as well. I'm never coming back to this stupid place again. That's right, Brother Su, have a safe trip. Come, Brother Su, let me send you off. The people and then lifted their wine pots towards Su Ming. There was kindness in their eyes, and with drunken expressions, they took a big swig from their wine pots. Su Ming wrapped his fist in his palm towards the crowd and turned around to walk towards the door of the inn. He did not walk quickly, but each step he took was steady. His departure did not attract too much attention. Only the man named Yin stood up and bowed towards Su Ming. I admit defeat. I hope that you will succeed. His words were too sudden, causing the people around him to be slightly puzzled. When they looked over, Su Ming had already walked out of the inn. Under the morning sun, he walked towards the second layer of Han Mountain City, the place where Nan Tian and Lung Ying stayed. I'll challenge all the transcended berserkers and win against each of them with just one move. This isn't difficult. Su Ming's expression was calm as he walked through the 4th layer, the 3rd layer, and finally, the 2nd layer. Su Ming did not even need to cast the branding art in the 2nd layer to feel the presence of 2 transcended berserkers in this place. Nan Tian, Su Ming said slowly. His voice was not loud, but when it echoed in the 2nd layer and fell into Nan Tian's ears, it made the meditating Nan Tian shudder. He opened his eyes swiftly, and shock appeared within them. Who is it? Nan Tian immediately got up and rushed out of his house. With just one glance, he saw a person in green robes standing 1,000 feet away from his house with his hands behind his back. Lung Ying, who was in another house not too far away, also rushed out with him. His face was incredibly grave, and at that moment, he quickly walked out of the house. The instant he saw Su Ming, his heart trembled, and he fell into a daze, as if he was not looking at a person, but a shocking mountain. He was like a mountain. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2:11. Since Freezing Sky Clan set the rules, then I will act according to them. Su Ming looked at Nan Tian calmly. Nan Tian's heart pounded against his chest. Just like Lung Ying, the moment he saw Su Ming, He felt as if he was looking at a majestic mountain. That mountain pierced through the clouds and gave off a vast and mighty pressure that made people feel suffocated under that pressure. "Sir, who are you?" Nantion's face was pale. He looked at Su Ming and spoke with great difficulty. Under Su Ming's gaze, Nantion felt as if everything about him had been seen through. It was as if he was standing naked before Su Ming. "Su Ming," Su Ming said slowly. "Su Ming." Nantion was momentarily stunned. He had never heard of this name before, but the power of this person before him was so great that he did not have time to think about it. "I'm going to attack." As Su Ming spoke, he lifted his right foot and took a step forward. The moment his foot landed, the entire Han mountain trembled. An invisible ripple spread out from the ground and gathered under Su Ming's feet in an instant, causing the spot where his foot landed to tremble and crack to appear. That crack let out cracking sounds and charged towards Nantion. Nantion was just about to get up and fly into the air, but the moment he was about to do so, the ground around him collapsed with a bang, with him as the center. An endless amount of shattered stones flew into the air and circled around Nantion. A grunt traveled into the air, and Nantion coughed out a mouthful of blood. He shuddered and did not dare move, because the shattered stones that were circling around him were like stone swords that covered his entire body. It was as if he dared move, they would pierce through him. A transcended berserker with the mountain mark. How could a normal mountain mark bring out such power? This person's power. Nantion's pupil shrank. He knew very clearly that this person did not harbor any killing intent. More importantly, he did not use his full strength. "Will you lose?" Su Ming asked calmly. "I admit my defeat," Nantion said in a low voice without hesitation. Su Ming nodded and looked at the shocked Lung Ying. The moment his gaze fell on Lung Ying's heart trembled and a respectful look appeared on his face. He wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed towards Su Ming. Lung Ying admits defeat. Su Ming did not say another word. With a swing of his arm, he stepped into the air and floated above Han Mountain City. His actions instantly caught the attention of the people in Han Mountain City. He also caught the attention of the people in the inn. Han Mountain City outsider, Su Ming, challenges all transcended berserkers from the 3 tribes. His voice was like thunder. It rumbled in the morning and immediately attracted the attention of all the people in Han Mountain City, especially since this was the last day Freezing Sky Clan was prepared to leave. "Su Ming, who is this person? He can fly. He's a powerful, transcended berserker. I've never heard of anyone called Su Ming among the powerful, transcended berserkers in Han Mountain City." As the people in the city discussed among themselves, the people in the inn Su Ming had left were all staring at the figure in the sky with dumbfounded expressions. He's a powerful berserker in the transcendence realm. The old man mumbled, his face filled with disbelief. "I actually drank with a powerful, transcended berserker for 2 nights? He's Brother Su?" The young man gulped and rubbed his eyes. As Su Ming's voice echoed in Han Mountain City, the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan were sitting cross-legged in a room on Lake of Colors Mountain. There was another person sitting before them, and that person was Han Fei-zi, junior sister Han Fei-zi. "Once the relocation rune is activated, we'll leave. Once we return to Freezing Sky Clan, you'll be the left preceptor's disciple. In the future," the man was speaking with a smile when Su Ming's voice traveled into his ears. He frowned. Another one who doesn't know his place. He thinks he can join Freezing Sky Clan just because he's in the Transcendence realm. Su Ming? I don't remember this name among the transcended berserkers in Han Mountain City. Junior sister Han Fei-zi. Have you heard of this person before? Displeasure also appeared on the woman's face, but when she looked at Han Fei-zi, her expression turned gentle. Su Ming, I've never heard of him. A pensive look appeared on Han Fei-zi's beautiful face. After a moment, she shook her head. He's just asking to be humiliated. There's no need for him to go. The man ignored Su Ming's words. Just as he was about to speak, an old voice suddenly came from outside. The appearance of that voice made the man's expression change, and he swallowed his words. The woman's expression also changed, and surprise appeared on her face. As for Han Fei Zi, she was momentarily stunned before she stood up and walked out of the house. All transcended berserkers of Tranquil East Tribe, there's no need for you to continue fighting. We admit defeat. The voice came from Tranquil East Mountain and echoed in the air, causing Han Mountain City to burst into an uproar after a short period of silence. Tranquil East Tribe admitted defeat. Where did this Su Ming come from? I've never heard of him before. How did he manage to intimidate Tranquil East Tribe? That Tranquil East Tribe elder is a powerful berserker in the middle stage of the Transcendence realm. Could it be that a miracle will happen today, and someone will obtain the right to join Freezing Sky Clan? As the uproar continued, all the people's gazes gathered on Su Ming in the sky. At that moment, Su Ming was not wearing his mask. He was not Mo Su. He did not hide his face. He was not a divine general. He was himself. Su Ming was not surprised by Tranquil East Tribe admitting defeat. Tranquil East Tribe was the only place he had the most contact with in Han Mountain City. Tranquil East Tribe was also the only one who understood his identity the most. However, it was clear that Puqiang Tribe was not the same. Once Tranquil East Tribe admitted defeat, a cold chuckle came from Puqiang Mountain. At the same time, a person charged towards Su Ming from Puqiang Mountain. Su Ming's expression was calm. Almost the moment the person closed in on him, he lifted his right hand and swung it forward casually. The moment he swung his arm, the sky and earth rumbled, and an illusionary mountain appeared in the air before Su Ming. That mountain was lying horizontally in the shape of a cone and charged towards the person. A loud bang reverberated in the air. The person who had laughed coldly let out a scream of pain. The moment he crashed into the illusionary mountain, he coughed out blood and tumbled backwards. It's a little troublesome if they come one by one. Puqiang Tribe, come at me together. Su Ming pointed towards the sky with his right hand. Immediately, the weather above Puqiang Tribe changed. In the midst of the illusion, a gigantic mountain with two summits manifested. The size of that mountain far surpassed Puqiang Mountain. Once it appeared, Su Ming pressed his right hand downwards, and the gigantic mountain with two summits descended. Muffled booming sounds reverberated in the air. Puqiang Mountain trembled viciously. Cracks appeared on its surface, and several Puqiang Tribe members on the summit coughed out blood, unable to withstand the pressure. This scene caused all those who saw it to suck in a sharp breath. The gigantic mountain in the sky was incredibly huge, and it exuded a suffocating feeling. As it descended, a low roar came from Puqiang Mountain, and a man who looked like he was made of flesh flew up and charged towards the gigantic mountain with two summits pressing down. Booming sounds spread in all directions. The moment the man touched the gigantic mountain with two summits, his body trembled and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His body became thinner, and he was no longer like a mountain of flesh. At the same time, it was as if his body becoming thinner had given him an even greater power. He gritted his teeth, and as he roared, he pressed his palms against the descending mountain with two summits, and a gigantic illusion appeared behind him. That illusion was incredibly similar to how it looked before it became thinner. It was a person who sat cross-legged like a mountain of flesh. Yet even so, the man only lasted for the span of a few breaths before he coughed out blood again. With a pale face, he tumbled backwards, and as he retreated, the gigantic mountain with two summits sank downwards with loud rumbles. At that moment, a cold harumph came from Puqiang Mountain. The elder of Puqiang Tribe, the thin old man, stood at the summit with a calm expression, as if there was nothing that could affect him. He lifted his right hand and slammed his palm towards the mountain through the air. "You're just a mere mountain, Mark. How dare you act with such impudence in Puqiang Tribe?" Yet the moment he said those words, the thin old man's expression suddenly changed. A loud bang came from his right hand, and it exploded into a bloody mess. At the same time, another mountain appeared on the mountain with two summits. The third mountain descended with a bang. The thin old man's expression changed rapidly, and disbelief and shock appeared on his face. He quickly took a few steps back and lifted his left hand to push against the ground. With that one push, Puqiang Mountain trembled, and a large amount of aura of death surged up from the lower parts of the mountain, turning into a black fog that charged towards the mountain in the sky. Booming sounds reverberated in the air. When the third mountain crashed into the aura of death and the black fog, a deafening sound spread in all directions, causing all those who saw it to feel their hearts jump in fear. Will you lose? In the midst of the booming sounds, Su Ming stood in midair, his expression as calm as ever as he asked flatly, Puqiang tribe admits defeat. A hoarse voice with difficulty came from Puqiang Mountain, which was surrounded by fog. The moment those words appeared, the gigantic mountain on the mountain twisted and slowly disappeared without a trace. The fog on Puqiang Mountain also dissipated, revealing the elder of Puqiang tribe standing within. He shuddered and blood trickled down the corners of his mouth. When he looked at Su Ming, his gaze was filled with shock and fear. Who is he? How could he make a normal mountain mark explode with such terrifying power with his power? Is this really a normal mountain mark? Even though the arrival of the envoys from Freezing Sky Clan can attract powerful berserkers, and it's not surprising that such a powerful berserker would suddenly appear, but, why do I feel like I've seen this person before? The elder of Puqiang tribe sucked in a sharp breath and looked at Su Ming in the sky with deep respect and bewilderment. An uproar broke out within Han Mountain City once again. Discussions filled with excitement, and excitement surged into the sky like waves of sound. Among these voices, the loudest came from the people standing at the entrance of the inn. They still could not believe that the Su Ming who was the center of attention in the sky was their little brother, Su, who had been sitting beside them and drinking with them just a moment ago. Since Freezing Sky Clan set this rule, then I will act according to it. Su Ming remained calm. He did not need to change the rules. Instead, he cast his gaze on Lake of Colors Mountain. He could see a few people standing at the top of the mountain. Among them, the most eye-catching were the man and woman standing right in front of them. These two people were both in the Transcendence realm. Su Ming, I'm here to challenge all the Transcended Berserkers in Lake of Colors tribe. Will you do it one by one, or will you do it all together? Su Ming asked slowly. At that moment, none of the people there, including Su Ming, noticed that there was a person standing at the highest point in the sky. He was looking at the ground at Su Ming. That person was an old man. He was Tian Xiezi. Mountain mark? No, this isn't a normal mountain mark. This is... Tian Xiezi mumbled. His eyes gradually brightened, and his originally disappointed heart was reignited. My dear fellow Taoists, where are your recommendation votes? To be continued. If you like this work, please come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2:12. At the top of Lake of Colors Mountain, the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan looked at Su Ming in the sky. His words echoed in their ears, but their expressions remained calm. There were not many changes in their expressions. Freezing Sky Clan had to have the pride of Freezing Sky Clan. Besides, to the two of them, there was nothing to be too shocked about. This person called Su Ming only had a slightly higher level of cultivation. However, the two of them had seen far too many people with this level of cultivation in Freezing Sky Clan, so they did not pay any attention to it. The only thing that surprised them was that Tranquil East tribe had admitted defeat on their own accord. As the leader of a tribe, it did not make sense for them to immediately admit defeat without even fighting against Su Ming. Even if this person has some ties with Tranquil East tribe, there's no need for him to do this. The man from Freezing Sky Clan frowned slightly before relaxing his brows. To him, there was no need for him to pay any attention to this matter either. The elder of Lake of Colors tribe was no longer among the crowd on Lake of Colors Mountain. The person leading the group was Yan Wan. There was a murderous look in her eyes as she looked at Su Ming in the sky. This was different from Tranquil East and Puqiang. Freezing Sky Clan was only taking in one person this time, and that person was Han Fei Zi. That was why in Yan Wan's eyes, all those who wanted to challenge and obtain the right to enter the sect were threats to Lake of Colors tribe. Sir, you have extraordinary power. Since you asked all the transcended berserkers in Lake of Colors tribe to attack together, then I will obey. A smile that was like the spring breeze appeared on Yin Luan's face. That smile was filled with charm, and even the man from Freezing Sky Clan felt his heart race slightly when he saw it. He quickly averted his gaze. With her power in the middle stage of the Transcendence realm, the power of her charm far surpassed what Su Ming had seen in the isolation grounds of Han Mountain's ancestor in the past. Su Ming's expression remained calm in the face of Yin Luan's beautiful smile that could make people's hearts pound. There was not a hint of change in his expression as he looked at her quietly. Yin Luan's pupils shrank under Su Ming's calm gaze, but she did not have the time to think. She took a step forward and flew up like a red butterfly. All transcended berserkers from Lake of Colors tribe, stand in the air. Yin Luan's voice was gentle, but it contained a heroic air. As it echoed in the air, 6 figures instantly charged up from Lake of Colors Mountain. There were 3 men and 3 women, and all of them were ancient in age. As they flew out, they stepped in the air and appeared beside Yin Luan in the blink of an eye. They charged towards Su Ming together. Su Ming's expression remained calm. He did not attack, but looked at the 7 people charging towards him. At that moment, all the people in Han Mountain City were looking at the scene in the sky. Their breathing quickened. They might not know Su Ming, but his appearance at that moment had caused the pressure they had been suppressing for the past few days to seem to have found a way to explode out. On Puqiang Mountain, all the tribe members, including the elder, were looking at the sky silently with complicated expressions on their faces. It was especially so for the elder of Puqiang tribe. He was still looking at Su Ming, and gradually that sense of familiarity became stronger, but he just could not figure out where that sense of familiarity came from. It was quiet on Tranquil East Peak, as if it was isolated from the matter of the challenge. This person is a little too arrogant, the man from Freezing Sky Clan said flatly on Lake of Colors Mountain. He is indeed arrogant. Even if he can use the mountain mark to suppress Puqiang tribe, I heard that the elder and tribe leader of Puqiang tribe were injured previously and could not bring out their full power, but it's different for Lake of Colors tribe. The woman beside him smiled faintly and nodded. Let's watch. The relocation rune is still in the process of being activated anyway. It's not completely activated yet. While we wait for the rune to be activated, it's not a bad idea to watch the show. That's right. Even if he wins by a narrow margin, it's fine. We can give him the right to enter the rune, but it's just a right. After that, we can point out some problems and have him complete them one by one. Once he completes one, there will be another until the rune is activated. I think it'll be interesting. The woman may not be incredibly beautiful, but she was still very pretty. She smiled, but most of her smile was filled with mockery. Han Fei Zi stood by the side and frowned slightly. She looked at the calm Su Ming in the sky, and her heart was the same as that of the elder of Puqiang tribe. She found a hint of familiarity about Su Ming. As the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan spoke, Yin Luan and the 6 powerful transcended berserkers from Lake of Colors tribe had already closed in on Su Ming. They suddenly spread out with great teamwork and surrounded Su Ming. 7 colors movement. Yin Luan lifted her hand and pointed at the center of her brows. At the same time, the 6 powerful transcended berserkers did the same thing. The 7 of them shuddered, and immediately the illusions of their transcended berserker marks appeared behind them. These illusions existed in the sky and earth. When they appeared at the same time, they immediately shook the sky and earth, causing the weather to change. A silver stream appeared in the sky. That stream was an illusion, but there were sounds of water splashing in the air. That stream was formed by one of the berserker marks. There was also a golden fish in the stream. There was a pair of wings on that fish's back, and it was leaping in the water. Hissing sounds came from its mouth as it chased after a pearl the size of a head before it. There was a layer of purple mist surrounding the pearl, and it continuously manifested all sorts of angry faces. There were men and women, old and young, in those faces. The golden fish and the pearl were also formed by transcended berserker marks. At the end of the stream was a gigantic gourd. That gourd was entirely green, and from the distance, it looked as if the stream was spilling out from the gourd, flowing endlessly. There was a boy sitting beside the gourd. He wore a small robe and held a fishing line in his hands. He was playing with it, but if anyone took a closer look, they would be able to see that the fishing line in the boy's hands was connected to the pearl containing the purple mist. As he played, the pearl continued moving, luring the golden fish to chase after it. Behind the boy was a big tree. That tree was incredibly lush and exuded an endless sense of life. The gourd, the boy, and the big tree were all formed by transcended berserker marks. 6 berserker marks formed a picture with the sky as its screen, causing all those who saw it to be sucked in and find it difficult to pull themselves out. This was one of the 3 most mysterious berserker arts in Lake of Colors tribe. Berserker picture, 7 colors movement. There were only 6 colors in the berserker picture. The 7th color appeared in the blink of an eye, and it appeared on the Chinese parasol tree behind the boy. It was a girl, but her face could not be seen. Her face was covered by her long hair like a curtain. She had her head lowered as she sat on the tree branch, singing softly. That song traveled into all the people's hearts, causing them to feel as if their souls were drawn into the picture. The girls singing, the sound of flowing water, the boys' playful giggles, and the golden fish chasing after each other on the surface of the water fused together and turned into a wave of impact that could not be seen charging towards Su Ming from all directions. She had already used one of the strongest berserker arts in Lake of Colors tribe. It was clear just how determined Yin Luan was to cut off Su Ming's right to join the tribe. Almost at the instant the invisible impact closed in on Su Ming, he closed his eyes as if he was listening to it. The air around him distorted at that moment, and the shadow of a gigantic mountain with 2 summits manifested to envelop him within. The moment the wave of sound formed by the fusion of various sounds touched the mountain, it turned into a thunderous boom that reverberated in all directions and did not disappear for a long time. Su Ming opened his eyes and said softly, "This song is very nice." The moment his words left his mouth, the wave of sound crashed into the mountain and formed a powerful rebound. This was a battle between berserker marks. If the mountain was not destroyed, then the sound would be cut off. The boys' playful laughter came to an abrupt halt. The golden fish's attack on the surface of the water immediately disappeared. The flow of the stream froze in an instant, and no more splashing sounds could be heard. The girl on the Chinese parasol tree also stopped singing. She lifted her head swiftly, revealing a beautiful face. However, there was shock in her eyes. 7 color shift. The girl gritted her teeth and stood up from the Chinese parasol tree. As she spoke, the boy flung his fishing line, and with it, the pearl containing the purple fog charged toward Su Ming. At the same time, the boy's expression turned ferocious, and he charged towards Su Ming at an incredible speed. The golden fish on the surface of the water let out a roar and suddenly jumped up. Its body continued growing longer, as if it was about to turn into a dragon, but it did not manage to do so. Instead, it turned into a creature that looked like a dragon and a python, and it charged towards Su Ming. The stream started moving swiftly, and as if it had come alive, it surrounded Su Ming and charged towards him. The last to attack was the girl. Once she stood up, the Chinese parasol tree beneath her immediately withered, as if it had sent out all its power, causing the girl's body to distort and turn into a phoenix. As it screeched, it charged towards Su Ming. 7 colors movement. If only one person could cast this art, then its power. Su Ming mumbled. In truth, the reason why he did not attack was because he had seen this method of casting a berserker mark that he had never seen before. After all, he had just reached the transcendence realm and did not know much about the usage of berserker marks. Once he saw the 7 color shift, he gained some understanding towards it. The scenes in the sky were enough to dazzle a person's eyes. This was the first time Su Ming had such a comprehensive experience of the battle between berserker marks. The moment those divine abilities closed in on him, a brilliant light appeared in his eyes. This art is extraordinary. If that's the case, then I will thank you with a mountain. The gigantic mountain with two summits around him changed abruptly, and a third, fourth, and fifth summits appeared on it. 5 summits appeared at the same time, turning into a shocking mountain that looked like a person's 5 fingers. This mountain is called Dark. This was the first time the Dark Mountain in Su Ming's Berserker mark appeared in the world in its complete form during a battle. Before him, there was no Dark Mountain in his world Berserker mark. The moment Su Ming said those words, a faint voice seemed to travel out from the 5-fingered Dark Mountain. Dark, the sound of soul creation. The core of the Berserker tribe's art is creation. The Berserker mark is creation, and as it continues gathering together, the Berserker mark will become more complete, but it requires the help of enchanted vessels. He did not use any enchanted vessels, but used his Berserker mark to create something out of thin air and created the sound of soul creation. This is the legendary god of Berserker's power. Tian Xiezi, he trembled in the sky, and shock appeared in his eyes. To be continued. If you like this work, please come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2:13. Not everyone could hear that voice. Besides Su Ming, who was stunned when he heard it, only Tian Xiezi could hear it. The others did not have the right to hear it. Their levels of cultivation were not high enough. However, even if he could not hear it, the 5 summits of Dark Mountain in the world around Su Ming had formed an incredibly powerful pressure around him, and it was exuding a mighty pressure that could suffocate people. That pressure far surpassed the one that had descended on Puqiang Mountain. Under that pressure, the Berserker mark formed by Lake of Colors tribe's 7 images movement crashed into the 5-fingered Dark Mountain. Booming sounds reverberated in all directions. The boy shuddered, and the fishing line in his hand snapped. His body also disappeared as if he was swept away by a violent gust of wind. The moment the golden fish that had turned into a creature that looked like a dragon and a python touched the 5-fingered Dark Mountain, it let out a shrill roar. Its body started shattering inch by inch until it finally crumbled. The stream water that came charging towards him looked as if it was boiling. In an instant, it turned into a layer of white mist that swept through the area before completely disappearing. Even the gourd had a large amount of cracks on it. In an instant, it turned into countless shards and disappeared without a trace. Eventually, the girl that had turned into the phoenix could no longer withstand the pressure from the 5-fingered Dark Mountain. She coughed out blood and turned back into the girl. Then, with a twist of her body, she turned into a wisp of black hair that scattered into the air. The moment Dark Mountain appeared, Lake of Colors tribe's Berserker picture completely crumbled. The strange phenomenon in the sky disappeared completely, and everything returned to normal. Only the 5-fingered Dark Mountain remained standing tall in the sky. It made all those who saw it feel shaken and want to worship it. Blood trickled down the corners of Yin Wan's lips. Her face was pale as she quickly retreated. The other 6 powerful, transcended berserkers from Lake of Colors tribe around Su Ming were also in a pathetic state. There was fear on their faces as they retreated. Right up till the end, Su Ming had not taken the initiative to attack. He had only been defending himself. The moment the crowd retreated, a chilling glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He took a step forward. He had always been skilled in speed, and after he transcended, his speed had increased exponentially. Even if he was in the air, with that one move, he turned into a long arc and chased after one of the people. This person was an old man. As he retreated, there was terror on his face. At first glance, Su Ming was still in the distance, but soon after, a powerful sense of danger enveloped his entire body. Before he could react to it, a cold finger had already touched the center of his brows. With a hong sound, the elder coughed out a large mouthful of blood, heavily injured as he retreated. Su Ming did not kill him, or else this person would definitely die. Su Ming pulled his finger back and took another step forward. At the instant he left behind an afterimage, a middle-aged woman in the distance let out a muffled groan, and a bloody mark that was not deep appeared at the center of her brows. Yin Wan's heart pounded in fear. and a deep sense of regret rose in her heart. She had not expected that this Su Ming would be so strong. He was not just strong in terms of his level of cultivation, but also in terms of his mountain mark, which left her in disbelief. In her eyes, this was clearly an ordinary mountain pattern that couldn't be any more ordinary. How could it have such astonishing power? Another scream of pain traveled forth. It came from another powerful, transcended berserker from Lake of Colors tribe who was still running away after Su Ming touched the center of his brows with his finger. Yin Luan quickly retreated, but before she could retreat too far, another shrill scream of pain traveled forth. Her heart trembled. She knew that this was not the time for hesitation. The moment that scream of pain traveled forth, Yin Luan bit the tip of her tongue and coughed out a mouthful of blood. She lifted her hands and swung them before her. "Statue of the god of berserkers from Lake of Colors, please." There was a piercing tone to Yin Luan's voice. At that moment, she might still be as beautiful as ever, but her expression had already changed. The moment she spoke, the entire Lake of Colors mountain trembled. A large amount of red fog appeared out of nowhere and gathered together to form a gigantic face. That face belonged to a woman. The moment the statue of the god of berserkers from Lake of Colors tribe appeared, Su Ming tapped the center of the brows of the person closest to the six with his right hand. Once he left behind a bloody mark, he heavily injured that person. Only then did he turn around and look at Yin Luan and the gigantic face behind her. He lifted his foot and walked in the air towards Yin Luan. At that moment, the expressions of the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan on Lake of Colors Mountain changed drastically. They stared at Su Ming, and even though they were trying their best to remain calm, there was a strong wave of emotions in their hearts. What is this mark? By the looks of it, it's a mountain mark, but mountain marks are a type of common mark. It's impossible for it to have such power. On Puqiang Mountain, the elder of Puqiang tribe and the skinny man looked at each other and sucked in a sharp breath. Shock appeared on their faces, and they suddenly felt lucky. If Su Ming had used a complete mountain mark just now, then they would not have been able to withstand it. "Crow. Its name is Crow," the elder of Puqiang tribe mumbled. Tranquil East Mountain was as silent as ever. It was as if they had expected all of this a long time ago. Not a single cry of surprise came from within. However, these cries of surprise came from within Han Mountain City. Once all the people in the city saw what had happened, their hearts trembled, especially the people who had been drinking with Su Ming in the inn. They were incredibly excited at that moment. Compared to these excited people, Yin Luan's heart roared when she saw Su Ming looking at her and his actions of walking towards her. Her face was pale and bloodless. As she retreated quickly, she lifted her hand and pointed at the gigantic woman's face on Lake of Colors Mountain behind her. Immediately, the woman's face moved and closed in on Yin Luan at an incredible speed. It shot through her body and charged towards Su Ming. Su Ming's expression was calm, but his footsteps came to a slight halt. Right before his eyes, the gigantic face that had pierced through Yin Luan's petite body opened its eyes. At the instant it did so, the face's appearance changed. It turned into a face that Su Ming was familiar with, one that had been carved into his soul. That face was filled with a wild beauty. It was Bai Ling's face. Su Ming sighed softly. The moment the gigantic face closed in on him, Dark Mountain manifested once again around him. With a loud bang, Dark Mountain crashed into the woman's face. As layers of ripples spread out, Su Ming's mountain mark disappeared. The woman's face also disappeared along with it. Su Ming walked out of the ripples. His expression remained calm as he walked towards Yin Luan. "You lost!" Yin Luan screamed shrilly as she retreated. "The rule is that you can only attack once against any transcended berserker. You've already attacked once. If you attack again, you'll lose." As Yin Luan spoke, she retreated and finally landed on Lake of Colors Mountain. The moment she landed, blood trickled down the corners of her mouth once again. When she looked at Su Ming, there was fear in her eyes. However, even if she was terrified, the pride in her bones would not disappear just because she was running away. If you attack, you lose. If you don't attack, you still lose because Yin Yuan, haven't lost yet. Yin Yuan's breathing quickened as she stood at the top of Lake of Colors Mountain. Not too far away from her were the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan. Han Fei Zi was also there. Su Ming stepped on the air and walked towards them from the distance. He walked to Lake of Colors Mountain, to the mountain rock that he had never stepped on before. The moment he arrived, the entire Lake of Colors Mountain immediately fell into dead silence. Everyone's gazes were focused on Su Ming. Han Fei Zi was the same, and the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan were also the same. There was also Yin Yuan. Su Ming looked at Yin Yuan, at that beautiful face. He still remembered that he had interacted with this woman before him when he was still in the isolation grounds of Han Mountain's ancestor. Su Ming did not speak in the face of Yin Yuan's words. Instead, he walked towards her. Yin Yuan did not know why, but as Su Ming walked towards her, she felt the same reverence she felt when she faced the elder. This had nothing to do with her level of cultivation. It was an indescribable feeling. She instinctively took a few steps back and gritted her teeth, forcing herself not to move. However, there was a pitiful look in her eyes as she looked at the man from Freezing Sky Clan. You lost. You failed in obtaining the right to enter Freezing Sky Clan. Back down. As Su Ming walked towards Yin Yuan, the man from Freezing Sky Clan took a step forward and shouted coldly. Su Ming ignored the man and walked closer to Yin Yuan until he was right in front of her. He looked at her pale face, and Yin Yuan was also looking at him. The pitiful look in her eyes was enough to make anyone want to love her. How dare you? A chilling glare appeared in the eyes of the man from Freezing Sky Clan. Just as he lifted his foot and was about to walk towards Su Ming turned his head around and glared at him coldly. Noisy. The man's feet trembled and a roar went off in his head. To him, Su Ming's gaze was like an arrow piercing through his eyes and straight into his mind. It turned into those two words in his body, and like a bolt of lightning, it swept through his mind, causing him to snap out of his stupor. Yin Yuan trembled. She sucked in a deep breath and forced herself to remain calm. But the man before her was like a mountain, causing her to feel as if she was suffocating when she came into contact with him at such a close distance. What a beautiful face! Su Ming looked at Yin Yuan and spoke softly after a long while. He lifted his right hand and swiped it across Yin Yuan's face gently. Do you really not want to admit defeat? Su Ming asked softly, and a smile appeared on his face. The branding art had already spread out from his hand and fused into Yin Yuan's body. Yin Yuan trembled viciously. That trembling was not due to her body, but her heart. Confusion gradually appeared in her eyes. This sort of confusion was incredibly rare for her, and it was especially so for a man. It was something she had never experienced before. An indescribable feeling grew in her soul, as if it was forced upon her, and she could not fight back. I admit defeat. Let me go. Yin Yuan bit her lip. Struggle appeared in her eyes, and fear appeared in the midst of that confusion. Su Ming looked at Yin Yuan, then averted his gaze after a moment and turned around to look at the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan. Besides you two, all the transcended berserkers here have already admitted defeat. Do you two count? Su Ming asked calmly. Under his gaze, the man's face turned pale. He looked as if he wanted to say something, but did not speak. Sir, your power is great, and we admit that we cannot compare to you. You already have the right to enter Freezing Sky Clan. But the one who spoke was the woman from Freezing Sky Clan. The woman looked at Su Ming, and her pupils shrank in a barely noticeable manner. But you only obtained the right to enter the school. You still need to go through a test. What test? Su Ming asked flatly. The first test isn't actually a test. It's to verify your identity. The rules of Freezing Sky Clan have changed. We won't accept new people who enter the tribes and cities during the recruitment. That's why you failed the first test. The woman smiled faintly and spoke softly. There was still a hint of mockery in her eyes. She was not afraid of Su Ming's anger. She had Freezing Sky Clan behind her. If he dared to attack a disciple of Freezing Sky Clan, then he would not have any chance of surviving in the land of South Morning. Sir, you have extraordinary power. It's better if you come a few years before the next time Freezing Sky Clan recruits disciples. That way, you won't lose the test even if you obtain the right. The woman continued smiling as she spoke unhurriedly. I remember that this rule hasn't appeared before. Su Ming frowned and looked at the woman. It hasn't, but I'm the one who decides when we recruit disciples this time. If I say the rules have changed, then they have changed. The woman's smile remained the same, but there was a hint of arrogance in her mockery. Su Ming remained silent for a moment before he looked at the woman coldly. I wonder if Emo Su can pass this test. As Su Ming spoke, he brought out the black mask whose name shook Han Mountain from his bosom with his right hand and put on his face. The moment he put on the mask, Su Ming's presence changed abruptly. From his mountain-like presence, it instantly turned into something incredibly strange. It was as if there was a black mist spreading out from his body and surrounding the area, causing Lake of Colors Mountain to instantly become eerie. Han Feizi, long time no see. With the mask on, Su Ming's voice became hoarse. That hoarse voice traveled in all directions. It was Emo Su's voice. The moment she saw Su Ming putting on the mask, a shudder ran through Han Feizi's body. She stared at Su Ming with a dumbfounded expression, and even her breathing quickened. Yin Luan nearly let out a cry of surprise. She had not expected that the man before her, the man she was forced to beg to spare her, was actually the man she had taken a liking to when she was in the isolation grounds of Han Mountain's ancestor and was about to take him as her lover. You. Yin Luan instinctively took a few steps back. Disbelief appeared in her eyes. The entire Han Mountain city was in an uproar at that moment. The uproar reverberated through the air. The transcended berserker, Emo Su, who was sought after by countless people and was known as the most mysterious, had appeared in this place in such a manner. This sort of shock was enough to make people's hearts tremble. My God, he's Emo Su. No wonder Tranquil East Tribe admitted defeat. This person was once Tranquil East Tribe's guest. He's Emo Su. The Emo Su who shocked everyone in the hidden grounds of Han Mountain and whose face no one has ever seen before is him. Within Han Mountain City, Nan Tian was completely stunned. He looked at Su Ming standing on Lake of Colors Mountain with a dumbfounded expression and was speechless for a long time, because at that moment, he had a guess that made him tremble in fear. I've been in Han Mountain City for many years. I wonder if this status is enough. Su Ming looked at the woman from Freezing Sky Clan. This chapter has 4,000 words, and I still lack 2,000 words today. I don't think I can write it today, but I'll make it up before the end of the month. Please supervise me and forgive me. I won't tell you the reason. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 214. The expression of the woman from Freezing Sky Clan also changed. When she came to Han Mountain City, she had heard of Emo Su's name and knew that there were 6 powerful, transcendent berserkers in Han Mountain City. Among the 6, besides the dead Xianlun and Yunzong, who was rumored to be in isolation, she had met Nan Tian, Lung Ying, and Kuju Si before. Nan Tian and the other 2 were not worthy of her attention, much less the dead Xianlun. When she first heard about the 6 transcended berserkers, the only one she was interested in was the person called Emo Su. This person was mysterious and wore a black mask. It was said that his power was incredibly high, and he seemed to be the leader of the 6 transcendent berserkers. He was also a guest in Tranquil East Tribe. Once the hidden grounds of Han Mountain were opened to the public, he was the only one who remained when the 3 tribes sent away all their guests. That was how things were in the world. The more mysterious something was, the more curious it was. That was the case for the woman. However, her curiosity did not last for long before she no longer paid attention to it. To her, whether Emo Su was mysterious or not had nothing to do with her. They were people from 2 completely different worlds. She had never imagined that Emo Su, whom she had once been curious about, would appear in front of her in such a manner today, at this very moment. She heard the ruckus in Han Mountain City. The waves of sound grew stronger and eventually swept through the area, creating a buzzing sound. The people who had been drinking with Su Ming in Han Mountain City were all dumbfounded. Su Ming had already given them a great surprise, but now that they knew that he was Mo Su, the shock they felt was so great that they could not even begin to imagine it. So he's Mo Su. No wonder he has such power. I thought he was... The man named Yin looked at Lake of Colors Mountain quietly. A dazed look appeared on his face, then he shook his head. He's Mo Su. The tribe leader of Puqiang tribe took a deep breath on Puqiang Mountain. He was not unfamiliar with Mo Su's name. He might not have seen him before, but they had investigated this person on Puqiang Mountain. However, the investigation did not yield too many results. They only knew that this person had suddenly become a guest of Tranquil East tribe and had disappeared without a trace in the hidden grounds of Han Mountain City. His fame was mostly due to Lake of Colors tribe and Tranquil East tribe's doing. However, he had asked Xianlun about this and obtained an answer. Mo Su should be a powerful berserker in the Transcendence realm, but due to his injuries, his power had fallen to the blood solidification realm. Even so, Xianlun did not have much confidence in winning against him. Compared to the uproar in the outside world, and Dong Peak was still silent. However, this silence did not last for long before an old voice came from the peak. The voice carried a trace of respect as it reverberated in the world. Tranquil East tribe congratulates Sir Mo for obtaining the right to join Freezing Sky Clan. While the entire area was in an uproar, Lake of Colors Mountain was silent. Han Feizi looked at Su Ming with a complicated expression and looked at the mask on his face. This was the first time she saw Su Ming's true face. After Xianlun died, she was the only one who knew that Su Ming had a great treasure on him. Should I call you Su Ming, or Mo Su? Han Feizi asked softly. Yin Luan's feelings were even more complicated than hers. She stared at Su Ming in a daze and remembered everything that had happened in the isolation grounds of Han Mountain's ancestor. She remembered how she had actually wanted to take him as her lover, remembered the soft words he had spoken when he looked at her just now, and the strange feeling that had made her heart tremble. A red flush suddenly appeared on Yin Luan's face. Su Ming did not speak in the face of Han Feizi's soft words. He only looked at the woman from Freezing Sky Clan coldly. The woman remained silent for a moment before she let out a cold harumph. So you're Mo Su. You've passed the first test, but there's still the second test. You have to challenge the chains of Han Mountain before the relocation rune is fully activated, or else you will still fail, the woman said with a cold sneer. Su Ming wore the mask, and his expression could not be seen. Even his eyes were calm, as if the woman's words did not affect him in the slightest. Is there a third, fourth, and fifth test? Su Ming asked flatly. His calm demeanor displeased the woman. She was representing Freezing Sky Clan to take in a disciple this time. Even though she had already decided to take in only one person, she was the representative of Freezing Sky Clan, and all those who ran into her had to be respectful to her. They would even be nervous. Only Su Ming did not seem to care about her at all. Even when she was clearly making things difficult for him, he remained calm. He only casually brought out a mask and turned her first test into a joke. When she heard his words, the woman's smile turned even colder. She no longer tried to hide anything and spoke coldly. Not just anyone can enter Freezing Sky Clan. Even if you've cleared the chains of Han Mountain and completed the second test, there's still the third test. The third test is to prove that when you transcend, you have the blood veins for the blood solidification realm. But you've already transcended. You can't prove this. Su Ming fell silent. When she saw that Su Ming did not speak, a mocking smile appeared on the woman's face. If you really have the ability to prove that you have blood veins in the transcendence realm with a convincing method, then there's still the fourth test. It's very simple. Ring Han Mountain Bell. It's a pity that the bell is no longer here. It was taken away by a divine general of transcendence. Go and get it back. If you can complete the 4 tests before the relocation rune is activated, then there's no harm in taking you into Freezing Sky Clan. If you can't do it, then leave immediately. Don't bother staying here. You won't be able to bear the wrath of freezing Sky Clan. The moment the woman finished speaking, Lake of Colors Mountain suddenly started trembling. Strong rays of light shot out from within the mountain. Those eye-catching rays of light gathered together at the top of the mountain, as if they were about to turn into a gigantic rune. Looks like you won't have a chance. The relocation rune has already been activated. It'll be fully activated in 10 breaths. The woman smiled. She no longer looked at Su Ming, but instead looked at the relocation rune that was rapidly forming. With this identity, is it enough? Su Ming asked languidly. The moment his words left his mouth, the woman was immediately stunned. The moment she turned her head around to look at Su Ming, a shudder ran through her body and disbelief appeared on her face. She instinctively took a few steps back, and all color instantly drained from her face. You. Even a man who had not spoken but was laughing coldly in his heart by the side also had a drastic change in expression. He sucked in a sharp breath and felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His mind went blank. The two of them were not the only ones in this state. At that moment, all the people on Lake of Colors Mountain were completely dumbfounded, and their expressions were replaced by shock. Thunder rumbled in the air. Arcs of lightning swam around Su Ming's body. The color of the lightning was blue, and while it gave off a strange air, it also meant one thing. Su Ming lifted his right hand, and bell chimes came from the center of his right palm. There was a bell that exuded an ancient presence there. That bell floated in midair and grew larger abruptly. Its appearance also meant one thing. Lord Divine General. Han Mountain City was in an uproar the loudest it had ever been, and it was filled with cries of surprise. There are 2,000 words in this chapter. I'll make up for what I missed yesterday. There will be 3 updates today and 1 in the afternoon. The last 2 updates will be very late. Please forgive me. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2:15. The origin vessel of the Transcendence Realm is lightning. That was refined by the Lord Divine General that day. That's Han Mountain Bell. That bell was taken away by the Lord Divine General that day. He's indeed the Lord Divine General. This is unbelievable. How could the Lord Divine General and M.O. Su be the same person? All the people in Han Mountain City seemed to have gone mad. The things that happened today had shocked them time and time again, but none of the shock they felt could compare to the shock they felt right now. The Lord Divine General, who was like the sun at noon in Han Mountain City and was remembered deeply by all the people in Han Mountain City, had now appeared before them. He was the Divine General. He was M.O. Su. He was Su Ming. Nan Tion's breathing quickened. He looked at Su Ming standing on Lake of Colors Mountain with a dumbfounded expression. His heart raced against his chest. Even if he had already made this guess in the depths of his heart, when this guess became real, he still could not suppress the waves of shock in his heart. As expected of the Lord Divine General, M.O. Su, he definitely didn't transcend, and his power fell after he was heavily injured. When I first met him, he hadn't transcended yet, but he managed to intimidate me with just the power of the blood solidification realm. This person is indeed worthy of becoming a divine general. Lung Ying, who was standing by Nan Tion's side, took a deep breath. He was not unfamiliar with M.O. Su's name, but in his heart, he had never thought that M.O. Su's power was unfathomable. In fact, he had once thought that this M.O. Su, who hid his face, did not even exist, or perhaps he had died a long time ago. He only had this reputation because someone else had intentionally made it up. Yet now, when he saw that Su Ming was M.O. Su, he was shocked. Yet before that shock could fade away, when he saw that M.O. Su was the divine general from that day, a bang went off in his head and his mind went blank. He lost his ability to think and was completely shocked by this. An uproar that was rarely seen erupted in Han Mountain City. The waves of sound shook the sky and earth and echoed in all directions, refusing to disappear. Almost all of the voices were calling out the same title. Lord Divine General. Among these voices, The people who had drunk with Su Ming in the inn were the most excited. Not even in their wildest dreams did they expect that their youngest brother Su, who had been drinking with them, who had always had a smile on his face and did not speak much, was actually Mo Su. He was actually the divine general they had seen that day, the one who had challenged the chains of Han Mountain, refined the heavenly lightning, and taken away Han Mountain Bell with great power. In the crowd, the man named Yun had a respectful and zealous look on his face. He had made some guesses previously, but he was not certain. As he looked at Su Ming standing on Lake of Colors Mountain, he could not help but remember the scene of the people drinking dejectedly that night. As he looked, Su Ming, Yun, who was standing on Mountain City Tribe, Su Mountain, Su Tribe, Yin Tribe Mountain, was excited. Within the crowd, there was an old man and a young man. The old man stared at Lake of Colors Peak with his mouth agape, while the young man beside him was in a daze, mumbling words that no one else could hear. "Greetings, Lord Divine General." In the midst of the excited uproar in Han Mountain City, an old voice came from Tranquil East Mountain. It was the elder of Tranquil East Tribe, Fong Shun, and all the powerful berserkers in their tribe. They floated into the air and wrapped their fists in their palms and bowed towards Su Ming from Tranquil East Mountain. Soon after, the same voice traveled forth from Puqiang Tribe, and all the leaders of Puqiang Tribe bowed towards Su Ming together with respect and uncertainty on their faces. "Greetings, Lord Divine General, Puqiang Tribe. We did not know your identity and have offended you. Please forgive us." The elder of Puqiang Tribe smiled wryly. He remembered that he had said these words to Su Ming twice. At the same time, the sounds of people paying their respects rose into the air from within Han Mountain City and filled the entire area. "Greetings, Lord Divine General. Welcome, Lord Divine General, to Han Mountain once again." The voices reverberated in the air and shook the area. They traveled into Lake of Colors Mountain and into the ears of the man and woman from Freezing Sky Clan, causing their faces to turn pale and their heads to ring. Yin Wan, tribe leader of Lake of Colors Tribe, greets, "Lord Divine General." The redness on Yin Wan's face deepened, and she bowed slightly towards Su Ming. Su Ming calmly took off the mask on his face, and his gaze fell on the woman from Freezing Sky Clan. "I've already completed the second test of Freezing Sky Clan, the challenge of the chains of Han Mountain," Su Ming said slowly. The moment he said those words, the woman's face turned even paler. "The third test is to transcend after attaining completion in the blood solidification realm. With my status as the Divine General, it's enough to prove it." Su Ming continued speaking. His voice was not loud, but his words traveled clearly into all the people's ears. The woman from Freezing Sky Clan trembled and staggered a few steps backwards. She looked at Su Ming blankly, her mind still blank. Everything had happened too suddenly, and she was unable to get used to this sort of abrupt situation. "As for the final test, bring me Han Mountain Bell. It's here." Su Ming's voice was neither too fast nor too slow. He was calm and collected. Once he finished speaking, the woman felt as if 3 hammers had struck her heart, causing her breathing to quicken. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. Yet before she could speak, a fierce, chilling glare suddenly appeared in Su Ming's eyes. Under that chilling glare, the woman's words immediately froze in her throat. "I've done everything according to Freezing Sky Clan's rules. As for you, it's time for you to give me an explanation," Su Ming said coldly. The woman's face was pale, and helplessness appeared on her face. She instinctively looked at her companion beside her. The man from Freezing Sky Clan also had panic on his face. Once the two of them looked at each other, the man gritted his teeth and took a few steps forward. There was no longer any hint of pretense on his face. Instead, he wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed towards Su Ming with sincerity and anguish. "I am Qin Yu Bing from Freezing Sky Clan. Greetings, Lord Divine General. I did not have the chance to see the majestic appearance of the Divine General of Transcendence that day when you caused the phenomenon in the world to appear. I've always regretted it, but now that I see you, you are indeed extraordinary." I am Su of Freezing Sky Clan. Greetings, Lord Divine General. There's a reason why I offended you with my words just now. Sir, please don't mind me. The woman lowered her head and bowed slightly towards Su Ming. The derisive look on her face was no longer there. Instead, it was replaced by nervousness and paleness. We're just outer sect disciples under the left preceptor in Freezing Sky Clan. We rarely go out. If we've offended you in any way, please forgive us. We were supposed to come here with senior brother Zhao, an inner sect disciple, but he had something to do at the last minute. That's why he didn't come. Before we left, the left preceptor said that Han Mountain City will only be taking in one disciple this time, and that is Han Fei Z from Lake of Colors tribe. We don't have the right to decide if we'll take in a second person. That's why we made things difficult for you just now, because we had no other choice. The two of them spoke in low voices, spilling out the thoughts in their hearts. With your power and your status as the Divine General, any clan in the land of South Morning will take you in. If you don't mind, you can come back with us to Freezing Sky Clan and let the sect elders decide. We really don't have the right to decide. I exaggerated just now. Sir, please forgive me. Su bit her bottom lip and spoke in a low voice. There was a pleading tone in her words. Su Ming cast a glance at the man and woman whose attitudes had changed drastically. He put away his mask and held Han Mountain Bell in his hand. Ever since he learned from Han Song-zi that Freezing Sky Clan would only be taking in one disciple this time, he had made a series of preparations, and there was only one goal in all of them: to step into Freezing Sky Clan. Su Ming had long since expected that he would not be able to decide who would become a disciple of Freezing Sky Clan here. Sir, please. Qin Yu Bing of Freezing Sky Clan said respectfully. The relocation rune on Lake of Colors tribe had already been activated. The rune shone brightly, and a gigantic ball of light appeared in midair. Freezing Sky Clan. Su Ming lifted his head and looked at the gigantic ball of light. Anticipation appeared in his eyes. He took a deep breath and was just about to walk towards it. Senior brother Chun, senior sister Su, do you mind if I use the rune to return to the school with you? A gentle voice came from tranquil East Mountain, and a lithe figure appeared along with it. It was Han Song-zi, Fong Songlan. She smiled sweetly and walked on the air. Her robes fluttered in the wind as she approached them like a butterfly and stood beside Su Ming. Once she smiled at him, she looked at Qin Yu Bing and Su Ruyu. A glint appeared in Su Ruyu's eyes. She swept her gaze past Fong Songlan and Su Ming before she spoke softly. Junior sister Fong, you're being too polite. I was going to ask you if you wanted to go back with us. Fong Songlan smiled and nodded. She moved closer to Su Ming, looking as if they were standing next to each other. When the people saw this, they saw it differently. Han Fei Zi's expression remained the same. She did not even look at Fong Songlan. Her eyes were trained on Su Ming as she walked forward calmly. When she arrived before Su Ming, a charming smile gradually appeared on her beautiful face. Don't forget, you owe me a promise when we were at the foot of Han Mountain. Han Fei Zi leaned forward, and in a very ambiguous manner, when Su Ming frowned, she whispered softly into his ear, her breath smelling like orchids. Only Su Ming could hear her soft words. By his side, Qin Yu Bing let out a fake cough and wrapped his fist in his palm towards Su Ming and the other two. Brother Su, junior sister Han Fei Zi, junior sister Fong. The rune has been activated. Let's go. He could vaguely tell that there was a story between Su Ming and the two girls beside him, but he pretended that he did not see it. He only hoped that this mission would end soon. Coming to Han Mountain this time had made him uncomfortable. The five of them gradually walked towards the relocation rune under the gazes of all the people in Han Mountain City. The moment they stepped into the relocation rune, cheers erupted from within Han Mountain City. Lord Divine General, have a safe journey. Lord Divine General, if you're free, remember to come back and visit. Lord Divine General, take care. Senior Mo, take care. A weak voice came from tranquil East Mountain, mixed in with the cheers. When Su Ming stepped into the relocation rune, he came to a halt and turned his head back to look at Han Mountain and tranquil East. A sentimental look appeared on his face. He could see a pale-faced teenager being supported by someone on Tranquil East Mountain, and that person was looking at him. "I'll be back." Su Ming wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed deeply towards Han Mountain City. Once he bowed, he turned around and a resolute look appeared on his face. He stepped into the relocation rune, and the moment his foot landed, an old voice suddenly traveled into his ears. "Kid, are you willing to become this old man's disciple? If you like this work, then please come to Chidian. Come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation." Chapter 2:16. Time seemed to have frozen in an instant. The rumbling sounds of the relocation rune in Su Ming's ears also disappeared in an instant, as if time had stopped. He turned his head around swiftly, and what he saw made his pupils shrink. He became alert and took a deep breath. He saw that everything around him had stopped moving. The light from the rune did not move, the ground around him did not move, but strangely, Han Mountain remained as it was before his eyes, but there was no one there. The three tribes were still the same, but there was no one there either. Even Fong Tsanglan, Han Fei Zi, and the others who had been by his side had disappeared without a trace. It was as if Su Ming was the only person left in the world. It was as if the world had changed the moment the old voice reached his ears. The world before his eyes turned into an empty world without any signs of life. This drastic change made Su Ming's heart tremble. He could not imagine just what sort of power could do this. To him, it was a little unbelievable. "This is the void world I created." The same voice that had reached his ears previously traveled forth languidly from a distance. Along with that voice was an old man dressed in white sitting on Tranquil East Mountain in the distance. The old man held a pot of wine in his hands. Once he took a sip, he looked at Su Ming. "Come, let's talk." Su Ming's heart pounded against his chest. His gaze focused on the old man, and after a moment, he looked around him. There was no sign of life on Lake of Colors Mountain. Besides him and the old man, there was no one else in the world around him. After a moment of hesitation, Su Ming lifted his feet and tried walking out of the relocation rune. Once he did so, he immediately turned his head back to look at the relocation rune. The light from the rune did not move, and the unmoving light looked like an illusion. Su Ming forced down the shock in his heart and slowly rose into the air. He walked forward until he arrived at Tranquil East Mountain and stood 100-something feet away from the old man. "Come, sit beside me." The old man put down the pot of wine and swept his gaze past Su Ming. There was a hint of praise on his face. Su Ming walked towards the old man quietly and obeyed him by sitting down. Curious, the old man scrutinized Su Ming, then lifted his right hand and pointed at the area in front of him. Immediately, the air before Su Ming distorted and a pot of wine appeared. What is a void world? The instant the pot of wine appeared, Su Ming's heart pounded against his chest, and he looked towards the old man. Void space is a bone sacrifice realm cultivator. When most of the bones in his body have reached Berserker Bone Realm, he can communicate with the world and create his own world. Because it isn't real, it's an illusion. That's why it's called empty. Because it's formed in the body, it's separated by the skin and flesh, so it can't spread out. That's why it's called a world. The old man picked up the pot of wine, and once he took a sip, he looked at Su Ming. This old man's void realm is not complete and can only create a world that I see. There are no living beings inside, and to be able to bring you in is already not easy. Su Ming fell silent. This was the first time he heard of empty realms. Blood solidification, transcendence, bone sacrifice, berserker soul. These are the four great realms practiced by us berserkers. You must first understand the meaning behind these four realms and understand why they are divided this way. Only then will it be possible for you to move forward step by step, the old man said with a smile. It doesn't matter whether you can become my disciple or not. It's fate that we met. I can guide you. Why is there a word for blood in the blood solidification realm? The old man looked towards Su Ming. Su Ming hesitated for a moment before he answered softly. Because we berserkers inherit our bloodline. Our blood contains the power of the berserker tribe, but it's thin. Only by continuously gathering it together can it erupt forth. That's right. In a broad sense, this is correct. But you still don't understand the meaning behind it. The old man lifted his right hand and drew a line in the sky. With that one line, a line of blood immediately appeared in the sky. That line of blood let out a piercing red light. Look carefully. I'll only make a prediction for you once. Once you look at it, tell me your answer. This is my first test for you. If you succeed, then you will become my disciple in name. If you fail, then you will go back to where you came from. The old man cast Su Ming a deep look and waved his right hand once again. The moment he waved his hand, the blood line in the sky trembled and a few branches appeared on it. Those branches split up once again, and eventually, the bloodline that appeared before Su Ming's eyes looked as if there were countless of them. But if he took a closer look, he would find that there was only one bloodline. That one bloodline had an endless amount of branches. As they split up, they gathered together in midair and formed the shape of a person. Red light shone and illuminated the entire area. When he saw this, Su Ming took a deep breath. He felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck his head. The blood veins that he originally thought had disappeared from his body and turned into his berserker mark appeared once again and covered his entire body. This strange sight made Su Ming's body shudder. So, bloodlines didn't disappear after transcendence. As Su Ming mumbled, the human figure formed by the bloodlines in the sky changed once again. The bloodlines intertwined with each other, and gradually, pictures of mountains, rivers, the sun, moon, stars, plants, and ferocious beasts appeared around it. These pictures continued flashing, and with every single one that appeared, the bloodlines that formed the human figure would change in a different way. They moved as if they were trying to match the illusionary pictures around them. The final picture that appeared was that of a mountain with 5 fingers. That mountain looked exactly like Su Ming's mountain mark. The moment the mountain with 5 fingers appeared, plants appeared on it. There were trees in the ground. The entire mountain with 5 fingers looked as if it had gained life. As it continued being perfected, it gradually turned into a real mountain and was no longer an illusion. When it completely turned into reality, Su Ming saw the mountain fusing together with the bloodlines once again. Slowly, the mountain became the body, and the body became the mountain. The mountain filled every single part of the bloodline figure's body. It was as if a totem had been carved on it, and it seemed to have become the flesh and skin of the bloodline figure. The moment Su Ming saw this, the bloodlines that had just appeared in his body started circulating. His body trembled furiously, as if he could no longer control it. His face immediately turned pale, and blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. A haggard feeling filled his heart. This feeling came from the sight he saw, and it triggered the qi in his body. Do you want to continue? The old man sitting beside Su Ming looked at him and asked languidly. Continue. Su Ming gritted his teeth. In the sky, the person who had fused together with the mountain and turned into skin was a person if he was a person. If he was a mountain, then he was a mountain. A vast and mighty presence spread out from the person's body, turning into a powerful pressure that enveloped the entire land. Soon after, a golden bone appeared within the person's body. The number of bones slowly increased, and after a moment, a complete spine appeared. That was not the end. Once the spine appeared, as time passed by, a complete skeleton appeared within the person's body. There was a silhouette, a skeleton, flesh, and skin. It was a complete person. However, he did not have a soul, and neither did he have a spirit. This person had his eyes closed and could not open them. Su Ming could sense an emptiness in his body, as if he was in deep sleep and had yet to wake up. When I open my eyes, I'll be in the berserker's soul realm. As the old man calmly spoke, he lowered his right hand. The instant his hand fell, the figure in the sky distorted and disappeared into the void. I'll wait for your answer here. The old man closed his eyes. Su Ming sat there and stared blankly at the disappearing figures in the sky. Everything he had seen appeared in his head. After a long while, he closed his eyes. Time slowly passed. In this void realm, there is no sun, moon, and stars moving. It was as if the flow of time had also stopped. The old man still had his eyes closed. He did not open them. He was patient enough to wait for Su Ming's answer, but before long, the old man opened his eyes and looked toward Su Ming. Su Ming's body did not move, but the blood veins that had appeared on his body were flashing furiously at that moment. Two of them had fused together. There was a surprised look in the old man's eyes as he looked at the two blood veins that had fused together. What great comprehensive abilities! Once two of the blood veins on Su Ming's body fused together, the speed of their fusion increased abruptly. The blood veins fused together one by one, and several hours later, under the old man's admiring gaze, all the blood veins on Su Ming's body fused together into one. That blood vein shone with a red light and slowly appeared on Su Ming's face. Once it turned into the mark of the mountain with the 5 fingers, it started spreading down Su Ming's neck. The old man saw this and was stunned. His berserker mark is in the form of a mountain. Now that he has truly completed the blood solidification realm, why is it still spreading? The blood vein was hidden under Su Ming's robes, and when it finally fused into his berserker mark, the old man beside him widened his eyes in shock. He sucked in a sharp breath. At that moment, he could no longer care about his status. He lifted his right hand and swung it at Su Ming's body. Immediately, the upper half of Su Ming's robes disappeared, and what appeared before the old man was the complete berserker mark he had drawn on Su Ming's body. Dark Mountain Tribe. The moment the old man saw the berserker mark, he sucked in a sharp breath and was momentarily stunned. He had seen countless berserker marks in his life, and he had also seen some complicated ones, but he had never seen a berserker mark like the one on Su Ming's body. Its complexity was unprecedented. Is this a berserker mark? This boy is even crazier than I am. The old man mumbled, and shock appeared on his face. I originally thought that the voice of soul creation he let out was the complete manifestation of his berserker mark. But by the looks of it now, the mountain mark created by the voice of soul creation is just a part of his berserker mark. This sort of berserker mark will either not be able to grow and turn into dust, or, once it grows, it will definitely shock the entire berserker tribe. Just what happened after I left that day. The old man was in slight disbelief. He suddenly regretted his decision to leave in disappointment in the past. His face was filled with regret, but he immediately noticed something. His expression immediately changed from regret to a smile and an unfathomable expression. He even swung his right hand at Su Ming's body, causing his robes to appear once again. Only then did he let out a fake cough and put on the air of a senior as he looked at Su Ming. At that moment, Su Ming opened his eyes slowly. There was a brilliant light in his eyes, and it was filled with understanding. Let me report, there's still one more chapter, and it'll be around 12 o'clock. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to Start Point and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 217. Cough. Since you've awakened, tell me your answer. Whether you can become my disciple in name or not will depend on your answer. The old man let out a fake cough once again and lifted his hand to stroke his beard. His demeanor of a powerful senior and the shock he brought to Su Ming caused no one to be able to see through his disguise. Su Ming took a deep breath and said slowly, blood solidification, transcendence, bone sacrifice, and berserker soul realm. These 4 great realms are all formed by the word creation. Creation, creating something out of nothing. This is the essence of the 4 great realms. This creation is based on the berserker mark. Everyone's berserker mark is different. That's why the creation is different. But at the end of the day, it's all about creation. Just like what I saw just now, a single line of blood eventually created a mountain-like person. Su Ming mumbled. His heart was still trembling at that moment. It was only on this day that he finally understood what his path of cultivation was. In fact, he had already noticed that after an unknown amount of time, he had truly fused all the blood veins in his body into one and fused them with his berserker mark. Even though he was still in the initial stage of the transcendence realm, The combat abilities he could control seemed to have become stronger. It was a complete break from the blood solidification realm and a true step into the transcendence realm. In fact, due to his actions just now, the initial stage of the transcendence realm had become full, as if he was not too far away from the middle stage of the transcendence realm. All of this was brought to him by the old man before him. Hearing this, the old man smiled, and the admiration on his face deepened. That's right. If you can understand this, then you can be considered to have reached the threshold and can be considered to be a divine general of transcendence. Creation is the core of the Berserker tribe. 1 creation, 10 creations, 100 creations, eternity, and finally, eternal creation is the god of Berserker's art. There are countless worlds in the world, and there are all sorts of cultivators. They're all different from each other, but only we Berserkers practice creation. When we reach the Berserker soul realm, we will reach perfection and create our own statue of the god of Berserkers. You've passed the first test. The old man's smile disappeared, and his expression turned serious. Su Ming, I am Tian Xiezi. I live in Freezing Sky Clan. I'm a member of Freezing Sky Clan, but I'm also not a member of Freezing Sky Clan. I have never taken in any disciples in my life. There were a few people who made me want to take them in, but in the end, they were not suitable for me. When you transcended, I was already paying attention to you. In fact, when you were meditating on your Berserker mark, I was also there. Tian Xiezi spoke slowly as he looked at Su Ming. Su Ming lifted his head and looked at the old man. He did not doubt his words. Right now, you have 2 choices in front of you. 1, everything will remain the same, and you can go to Freezing Sky Clan. With me speaking for you, you can become a disciple of Freezing Sky Clan. Since you've obtained the title of Divine General of Transcendence, you'll definitely be highly regarded in Freezing Sky Clan. You'll definitely become an inner sect disciple. In fact, some of the old people in Freezing Sky Clan might even choose you as their disciple. Become a prodigy of Freezing Sky Clan, just like that Sima sign. As for your future development, it will depend on your own luck. 2, give up on entering Freezing Sky Clan and become my disciple. I'll be in Freezing Sky Clan, and you'll be in Freezing Sky Clan. If I leave, you'll come with me. If you become my disciple, you can stay in Freezing Sky Clan, but you won't be a disciple of Freezing Sky Clan, so you won't be able to receive the same treatment as a disciple of the clan. However, those who acknowledge me as their master will understand one day that Freezing Sky Clan is nothing. If you want to become my disciple, then you must go through the second test. Only if you pass will I acknowledge you as my disciple. Tian Xiezi stated sternly. His words were laced with disdain towards Freezing Sky Clan and his own arrogance. However, when he saw the contemplative look on Su Ming's face, as if he was making his decision, he could not help but become nervous. If he had not seen Su Ming's Berserker mark, he would not have paid too much attention to this, but it was different now. The old man let out a fake cough and quickly said, Ahem, Su Ming, look, I helped you just now, and your power has increased a little, right? If you become my disciple, you'll be able to do more of these things in the future. Su Ming remained silent. You have to think this through. I'm very protective of my own people. If you become my disciple, then you'll get a lot of benefits. If you refuse, the old man let out a harumph. He felt rather helpless in his heart. Taking in a disciple was very important. It was not good to force others. What benefits? Su Ming lifted his head and asked calmly. Of course, there'll be a lot of benefits. Tian Xiezi was feeling a little guilty. He laughed out loud and used this as a cover. He was a cunning man, so he was confident that Su Ming would not be able to see through his disguise. I have a lot of Berserker vessels in my cave abode. You're my only disciple, so of course I'll let you choose whatever you want. I also have all the skills and divine abilities of Freezing Sky Clan. You don't need to join Freezing Sky Clan to learn them. They won't be able to say anything either because you're my disciple. Let me think. I also have a big mountain that I can use as my courtyard. I have my own cave abode. If you become my disciple, I'll immediately open up a cave abode that belongs to you. I still have some acquaintances in the Great Yu Dynasty. If you go there to get the title of Divine General, I can go with you. Also, let me think. If you become my disciple, your status will immediately change. My relationship with Freezing Sky Clan might be a little complicated, but I can still be considered as one of the older generation in Freezing Sky Clan. Once you acknowledge me as your master, you'll immediately have the same status as the preceptor. Those girls will also have to call you Uncle Master. In any case, you'll get a lot of benefits. That's right, I also have a lot of ancient scrolls. They contain everything. I even have a map of the land of South Morning. It's not any weaker than Freezing Sky Clan's. After all, I've been to too many places. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He remained silent for a moment as the old man continued talking, then nodded his head. All right, Senior, please tell me about the second test. Tian Xiezi's spirits lifted and the smile on his face grew wider. He pointed at the pot of wine before Su Ming. I spent a long time brewing this pot of wine. Even the left and right preceptors of Freezing Sky Clan can't drink it. Don't you want to try it? Su Ming looked at the pot of wine before him and picked it up without any hesitation. He brought it to his lips and took a sip. He knew that with the old man's power, if he wanted to harm him, he would not need to go through so much trouble. Yet the moment he drank the wine, Su Ming could not help but be stunned. Water! He looked at the old man. It's wine. There was a ghost of a smile on the old man's lips. He stood up with a happy expression on his face. Su Ming frowned. His gaze fell on the pot of wine in his hands, and he fell into deep thought. You've also passed the second test. Come with me. We'll be relocated to Freezing Sky Clan and go home. The old man laughed loudly and took a step forward to walk in front of Su Ming. He did not see Su Ming shuddering as he held the pot of wine. He lifted his head and cast the old man a deep look when he said the words go home. I don't know what's in this pot of wine either. I might be the one who brewed it, and I used the creation art of the Berserker tribe. But everyone tastes different when they drink it. See, my Xian drank it before, and he said it was bitter. There were 3 others who drank it before, and they said different things. When I drank it, I felt that it was wine. You're the only one who said it was water. This answer fits my mood today. That's why, from now on, you, Su Ming, will be my only disciple. Tian Xiezi walked in front and turned his head back to look at Su Ming with a smile. Su Ming was momentarily stunned before a wry smile appeared on his face. He walked in the air with Tian Xiezi and gradually left into the distance. As they left, the world and the empty world gradually distorted and eventually turned into an illusion. Even Su Ming and Tian Xiezi, who were standing in the distance, disappeared without a trace. On Lake of Colors Mountain outside Han Mountain City, the light from the relocation rune reached its brightest. It let out a loud rumble, and the ground trembled. It was as if layers of invisible power were gathering together from all directions and surging into the relocation rune within Lake of Colors Mountain. It erupted from the top of the mountain and turned into a rune that could be seen outside. The light was piercing to the eyes and enveloped all the people within. Su Ming shuddered and snapped out his daze. A wine pot had appeared in his hands at some point in time. The appearance of the wine pot made him fall into a daze. Everything that had happened in the empty world had only lasted for an instant in the outside world. Empty world. Su Ming lowered his head and looked at the wine pot in his hands, then picked it up and took a sip. Besides the rumbling sounds from the rune, he could also hear the shouts from Han Mountain around him. Gradually, right before the eyes of all the people outside the rune, the light from the relocation rune on Lake of Colors Mountain shone brilliantly, causing all the people who saw it to feel their vision become blurry for an instant, and the sky and earth instantly darkened. The light from Lake of Colors Mountain disappeared. Only sparks of crystalline light spread out weakly, but they also quickly fused into the air and disappeared. He's gone. Within Han Mountain City, Nan Tian sighed softly. There was a complicated look on his face as he shook his head. I wonder how much further the distance between us will be when we meet him again. Perhaps we'll never meet again. By his side, Lung Ying looked at Lake of Colors Mountain silently, where the light from the relocation rune had disappeared. A resolute look appeared in his eyes. He's finally gone. On Puqiang Mountain, the elder let out a sigh of relief. However, He knew that he would never forget that a divine general of transcendence had once appeared in Han Mountain and used this method to enter Freezing Sky Clan. On tranquil East Mountain, Fong Mu lowered his head. His father stood by his side and opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but Fong Mu did not look at him. Instead, he walked away with his head lowered, as if he did not want to talk to him. Fong Shun sighed quietly. As the envoys of Freezing Sky Clan left, Han Mountain gradually returned to its usual peace. Some people left, some chose to stay, just like the people in the inn. Yet no matter what, the next time Freezing Sky Clan took in disciples, perhaps some of them would meet again. They would drink and talk about the miracle that happened in the past. It was especially so for those who drank with Su Ming. Perhaps they would proudly talk about how there was a divine general called Su Ming who lived here in the past, and some of his stories. I've finally finished writing the plot of Han Mountain City. Next, I'll write the exciting part about Freezing Sky Clan. Please look forward to it. It was midnight on Monday. I did not get a lot of recommendation votes in the past 2 weeks, so I did not have enough time to update my novel, which was why I was too embarrassed to speak. Today, I was filled with confidence and shouted, "My fellow Taoists, where are your recommendation votes? Where are your monthly votes? Rise to power." To be continued. If you like this work, please come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2:18. The second scroll, The Wind Rises, Freezing Sky, had officially begun. What sort of things would be waiting for Su Ming in Freezing Sky Clan? If Sima Xian was a prodigy, then Su Ming would save Fong Mu, obtain Han Mountain Bell, resolve his feelings for Han Songzi, and then fight against Sima Xian. What sort of shocking blood-red light would appear? If Su Ming met the girl filled with wild beauty in Freezing Sky Clan, how would his expression change? Would his breathing instantly quicken? And in that instant, he would feel as if thunder was roaring in his head. There's also Han Feizi. What sort of serendipity would this beautiful girl, who in Han Songzi's eyes, have with Su Ming? All of these things would be revealed in Freezing Sky. Freezing Sky Scroll is interesting. That's why I'm asking for recommendations, monthly votes, and for me to rise to power. To be continued. If you like this work, please come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2:19. The land of South Morning was so big that it seemed endless. Even if a normal person had reached the Transcendence Realm, there were very few who could travel through the entire land. This piece of land was simply too vast. There were people who had vaguely calculated that a berserker in the Transcendence Realm would usually need more than 100 years to travel through the land of South Morning, and that did not include the dangers they would run into on the way. There were also an endless amount of ferocious beasts in the land of South Morning, and some of these beasts could even fight against those in the Berserker Soul Realm. Even those who had reached the Bone Sacrifice Realm would need a long time to travel through the land of South Morning, and they would also need to be careful. The land of South Morning is divided into the inner and outer worlds, with Sky Mist City as the boundary. This city was built by Freezing Sky Clan and Western Sea Clan over the course of thousands of years. It was built around the mountains, and in the end, it turned into a barrier that surrounds the land of South Morning. To the north of the land of South Morning was a mountain surrounded by golden light. The man named Chun from Freezing Sky Clan stood there and looked into the distance as he spoke languidly. Sky Mist City is divided into one main city and 9 secondary cities. They guard the barrier that separates the inner and outer worlds of the land of South Morning. It's also because of this barrier that the ferocious beasts and shamans in the land of South Morning will not easily enter the inner world and slaughter the people in the inner world. The man named Chun pointed forward. In the direction of his finger, a mountain range that looked like a dragon's spine could be seen faintly in the distance. Its end could not be seen, and it looked like a city wall. That's part of Sky Mist City's barrier. Junior sister Han Feizi, you should have never heard of this city before. Once you enter the sect, you'll definitely be valued. At that time, You'll gain experience. You might even be sent to guard Sky Mist City. This is the greatest glory for the people of the land of South Morning. Brother Sue, you're a divine general. It's fine for you to know some of the secrets of the land of South Morning. With your level of cultivation and status, you'll know about these things sooner or later. The man named Chun cast Su Ming a glance, and a friendly smile appeared on his face. Su Ming's expression was calm. He looked at the mountain range in the distance and did not speak. He did not know how much time had passed in the relocation room in Lake of Colors Mountain. He only felt that a long time had passed before the booming in his ears disappeared. When he could see the light before his eyes, he opened his eyes and appeared at the top of the mountain with the other four. Once she appeared, Freezing Sky Clan's Su Ru brought out some golden stones and placed them on the top of the mountain according to some sort of rule. As the stones in her hands were placed on the top of the mountain, the golden light gradually grew stronger. Thank goodness we have this 4-layered relocation rune. In the past, we needed to use Sky Mist City's rune to travel from Han Mountain to Freezing Sky Clan, and it would take us a long time to travel. Besides, Freezing Sky Clan might have researched and used relocation runes before, but the distance they travel is short, and the price to pay for it is great. If we use it multiple times, we won't be able to handle it, and we'll need to rest dozens of times. The man named Chen looked at Su Ruyu, who was setting up the rune, and smiled at Su Ming, Han Song Zi, and Han Fei Zi. Sky Mist City? Han Fei Zi's gaze fell on a mountain range, and she frowned. Looks like junior sister Han Fei Zi doesn't know about the existence of this city, but that's normal. I only learned some of the secrets of the land of South Morning after I entered Freezing Sky Clan. Brother Su, have you heard of Sky Mist City before? The man named Chen smiled faintly, and his gaze fell on Su Ming. He was certain that Su Ming would be accepted into the school, and his status in the future would not be lower than Han Fei Zi's. In fact, there was a high possibility that his status would be even higher than Han Fei Zi's. That was why he wanted to improve their relationship and become friends with Su Ming. That was why he intentionally mentioned some things that should not be known by outsiders. I've never heard of it before, Su Ming said calmly as he looked at the mountain range in the distance. Since that is the case, I will accompany junior sister Han Fei Zi and brother Su to observe the walls of the heavenly mist mountain range from a close distance. I will give the two of you a detailed explanation, the man with the family name Chan said with a smile. Then, he turned his head to look at Su Ryu, who was laying the formation. Su Ryu wiped the sweat off her forehead. When she saw Chen Yubing looking at her, she said with a smile, I still need 10 more hours before I can finish setting it up and start the second teleportation. Junior sister Han Song Zi can just stay here and protect me. When Su Ryuel laid down the formation and placed the golden rock, she had to calculate the process. She was not familiar with this, so she had to spend a lot of time being cautious. Chen Yubing nodded, then looked at Han Song Zi. All right, sorry to trouble you, junior sister Su. We won't go far. If anything happens, we'll come back as soon as possible. Thank you, junior sister Fong. Han Song Zi's expression was elegant. She swept her gaze past Su Ming and nodded. Brother Su, junior sister Yin, please. Chen Yubing lifted his hand and gestured in the direction. He stood up and turned into a long arc that charged into the distance. Han Fei Zi's expression remained aloof. At that moment, a white cloud appeared under her feet and lifted her lithe body as she followed closely behind. Su Ming walked into the air unhurriedly. The three of them turned into 3 long arcs that headed towards the walls of the mountain range of Sky Mist City. When we talk about Sky Mist City, we have to talk about the barrier that separates the inner and outer parts of the land of South Morning. The inner part of the land of South Morning is where we live. Right now, we're in the inner part of the land of South Morning. The inner part of the land of South Morning is very big. To the east is most of Western Sea Clan's territory, and to the north is Freezing Sky Clan's territory. However, compared to the world beyond the barrier, the area we live in is only a small part of the entire land of South Morning. Chen Yubing's voice traveled into their ears. At full speed, the three of them slowly approached the barrier of the mountain range of Sky Mist City. When they were about tens of thousands of feet away from the barrier, Chen Yubing's voice was still echoing in Su Ming's ears. At that moment, a powerful pressure suddenly spread out from sky mist barrier tens of thousands of feet away and charged towards the three of them. Sky mist forbidden grounds are strictly forbidden. An aloof voice echoed in all directions like thunder, and the echoes of the voice echoed in the air. Han Fei Zi's expression changed. She could barely stand still, and the white cloud under her feet looked as if it was about to crumble. Her level of cultivation was the weakest, and as her heart trembled, a gentle force traveled from behind her and filled her body, causing her to regain her balance. Su Ming stood beside Han Fei Zi and supported her waist with his right hand. A faint blush appeared on Han Fei Zi's cheeks, but she did not refuse. Instead, she stood beside Su Ming and looked towards the barrier of sky mist mountain range tens of thousands of feet away from where the voice came from. I am Freezing Sky Clan's disciple, Chen Yubing. Greetings, Uncle Master of this place. Chen Yubing was also shaken, but he did not panic. Clearly, he was not surprised by the appearance of the voice. With a respectful expression, he bowed towards the barrier of sky mist mountain range tens of thousands of feet away. I saw you at the relocation point a long time ago. Why didn't you stay there? Why did you come here? The aloof voice traveled into their ears slowly. Uncle Master, I was ordered by the left preceptor to go to Han Mountain City to take in disciples. We passed by this place and wanted to take a closer look at the barrier of the land of South Morning. We won't be going forward anymore. We'll just watch from here. Uncle Master, please make an exception for us, Chen Yubing quickly said. The moment he finished speaking, Su Ming immediately felt a wave of pressure charging towards him and sweeping past him and Han Fei Zi. At the same time, a soft gasp of surprise echoed in the air. Come here. If you want to see, then stand on the barrier and look at the world outside the land of South Morning. After a moment, the aloof voice traveled into their ears with a gentler tone. Thank you, Uncle Master. The man named Chun was momentarily stunned before he quickly wrapped his fist in his palm respectfully and turned his head around to look at Su Ming. He was not an idiot. He had suggested coming to this place because he knew that the person guarding this place was a senior of Freezing Sky Clan and that he would not be rejected. That was why he used this method to ease up his relationship with Su Ming. However, he did not expect that this unknown Uncle Master would allow them to stand on the barrier. This is Freezing Sky Clan's territory. All the people guarding the barrier outside Sky Mist City are seniors of Freezing Sky Clan. That's why we can get close. If we were in Western Sea Clan's territory, they would have chased us out a long time ago. If we were disrespectful, we would be in danger. Su Ming cast a glance at Chen Yubing. Under his gaze, the man named Chun smiled sheepishly and spoke in a low voice. In truth, I've never stood on the barrier to look at the land of South Morning. Let's go. I'm very curious about this place. Su Ming averted his gaze and said with a smile. As the three of them got closer, a thick, oppressive feeling gradually rose in Su Ming's heart. The mountain range's barrier looked incredibly majestic from the distance, and now that they were closer, it was even more so. Before it, he could not help but feel tiny. If he lifted his head from the foot of the mountain, he would have the misconception that the mountain range was connected to the sky. Han Fei Zi's breathing quickened. She looked at the mountain range barrier before her. It was difficult to imagine that this mountain range surrounded the land of South Morning and became a barrier. The distance of several tens of thousands of feet quickly shrank. When the three of them stepped on the mountain range barrier, a mighty pressure enveloped them. Under that pressure, Han Fei Zi's face turned pale, as if she could not withstand it. If she was not standing beside Su Ming and he had dispelled most of the pressure, she would definitely not have been able to stand steadily. Su Ming's heart trembled. He stood at the top of the mountain range and looked forward. In his eyes, he saw a vast land in the distance. This land was also part of the land of South Morning, but it was outside the barrier. The soil was black, and there was a thick stench of blood coming from the mountain breeze. A feeling of desolation rose in his heart. The desolate land, the boundless sky, the endless forests, and the blurry shadows of the tall mountains could be seen. In fact, he could even hear faint roars coming from afar. There were also a few skeletons on the ground. Those bones were incredibly thick, and it was obvious that they belonged to ferocious beasts. The world beyond the barrier was like two different worlds. Off to the side, Chen Yubing was also shaken. This was also the first time he had ever stood on a barrier and looked out at the outside world. This time, the left preceptor took in a disciple, and there's a divine general among them. A cold voice came from behind the three of them. The air behind them distorted, and a middle-aged man walked out. The middle-aged man wore a sackcloth made of coarse cloth. His hair was braided into many small whips. He was not tall and was rather thin. His looks were normal, but his eyes were incredibly bright. I want recommendation votes. I want monthly votes. To be continued. If you like this work, please come and vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.